Mic check 1 2 1 2. Can anyone in the chat hear me? Just push one if you can. If I get a confirmation, then I know we can continue with the broadcast. All right, I got a confirmation, man. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is Economics episode 351. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Also, just as an FYI, we are not certified financial planners. If you want a certified financial planner, please go to cfp.net, look up one in your area. We don't give out financial advice here. If you want to join the panel, there'll be a link in the chat. You'll be able to click on the link. You'll be in the waiting room. Make sure you raise your hand so you can be acknowledged so we can advance you to the panel. If you don't raise your hand, you're going to be sitting there for quite some time. All right. The docket and description beneath the video for you to follow along with. I'll get started with the first item on the docket. This one is from Clark.com. Here are the top 10 career fields for flexible jobs. Most people would agree that finding a job is not always easy, and trying to find a truly flexible job can be downright difficult. But there are some flexible jobs in some top career fields out there if you know where to look. The jobs website, FlexJobs, has a new report that lists the top career fields for people looking to find employment that offers a remote, flexible, or part-time schedule. The findings also name specific employers who offer freelance or project work. FlexJobs examined the volume of job postings across more than 50 categories in its database to identify the 10 career fields with the most flexible job postings this year. The first one on the list is computer and IT. Companies hiring for flexible jobs. Dell, Elucian, Vector Security. Common flexible job titles: system administrator, business system analyst, network security engineer. Number two, companies hiring for flexible jobs: American Express, Nationwide Insurance. Common flexible job titles: territory sales manager, sales representative, account executive. Number three, medical and health. United Health Group, Centura Health, PRA Health Sciences. Common flexible job titles: clinical trial manager, medical coder, clinical research associate. Number four, software development. CrowdStrike, FistServe. Common flexible job titles: software engineer, software developer, mobile game developer. Number five, project management. Kraken, JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle. Jacobs Engineering Group. Common flexible job titles: project manager, project coordinator, senior product manager. Account number six, account management. Companies hiring for flexible jobs: Open Table, DoorDash, Pitney Bowes. Common flexible job titles: account manager, client success account manager, customer success manager. Number seven, customer service. Companies hiring for flexible jobs: H&R Block, Uncommon Goods, Capital One. Common flexible job titles: customer service representative, client manager, customer support agent. Number 8, education and training. Companies hiring for flexible jobs. VIP Kid, Ohio State University, and Pearson. Common flexible job titles to this: adjunct faculty instructor, online teacher, online tutor. Number 9, uh, companies hiring for flexible jobs: accounting and finance. Price Waterhouse Coopers, Lincoln Financial Group, Edward Jones. Common flexible job titles: finance manager, business analyst, auditor. Number 10, marketing. Companies hiring for flexible jobs: Fitbit, CBS Interactive, Philips. Common flexible job titles: social media marketing manager, paid media strategist, director of growth marketing. The flexible job survey indicates that a flexible gig is one of the most sought after work arrangements there is. In other words, these jobs are in demand. If you want to find some of the latest stay at home job opportunities, you might want to sign up for a short term subscription to Flex Jobs, which starts at $14.95 a month. So we talked about IT quite frequently on here. We did a whole live stream on system administrator and network security engineer. So this article falls in line with a lot of what we talked about on this channel. And because of that, I feel confident that the advice that we give out on here is not that far off the mark. In fact, it's right on the money. Hey, what's going on, DE Raptor? What's going on, MOT?
Good evening, everybody. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Good. Can't complain.
Hey, Mike, you left a couple. You left a couple of people off that list, though. I mean, you can't. I mean, there's some people who write, like articles, writing for like newspaper, news editors, and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then the other one though is black YouTuber. You can't leave that out.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of guys make big bucks off of that in the manosphere,
Oh yeah. That goes without saying, though.
As a reptile developer.
Yeah.
MOT.
A MAGO architect.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get to this next article from CNBC.com. A growing club of very powerful countries is steering away from using the dollar. The US dollar has been the world's major reserve currency for decades, but the status could come under threat as very powerful countries seek to undermine its importance, warned Ann Corin from the Institute of Analysis of Global Security. Major moves such as China, Russia, and the European Union have a strong motivation to de-dollarize, said Corin, co-director at the Energy and Security think tank, on Wednesday. We don't know what's going to come next, but what we do know is that the current situation is unsustainable, Corin said. You have a growing club of countries, very powerful countries. To be sure, the dollar is seen as one of the safest investments in the world, and it rising and it rising But one factor curbing countries' enthusiasm for the greenback is the prospect of being subject to U.S. jurisdiction when they transact in dollars. When the U.S. dollar is used or transactions are cleared through an American bank, entities are subject to U.S. jurisdiction, even if they have nothing to do with the U.S., Corin told CNBC Squawk Box. Corin cited Washington's unilateral withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018, which was followed by the restoration of sanctions on Tehran. That situation left European multinational companies vulnerable to punishment from Washington if they continue to do business with Iran. Europe wants to do business with Iran. It doesn't want to be subject to US law for doing business with Iran, right? She said. Nobody wants to be picked up at an airport for doing business with countries that the US isn't happy that they are doing business with. As a result, countries have a very, very strong motivation to shift away from using the greenback, she said. But if the dollar declines in influence, other currencies could fill the role traditionally played by the greenback, especially China's yuan. In recent years, China has tried to internationalize the use of its currency, the Chinese yuan. Such moves have included the introduction of yuan-denominated crude oil futures and reports that China is preparing to pay for imported crude in its own currency rather than the US dollar. Yuan-dominated oil futures, also referred to as petro yuan, could serve as an early warning sign for dollars waning dominance. I think it's a canary in the coal mine. Look, 90% of oil is traded in dollars, she said. If you have a sort of beginning to crumble away at the dominance of the dollar over oil trade, that's a nudge in the direction of de-dollarization. However, she added that while the petro yuan may be a necessary condition for the international abandonment of the dollar, it's not sufficient to make it happen on its own. So this is stuff that we've covered in the past, but this is coming to fruition probably in the next calendar year, where countries get away from the dollar because they don't want to be penalized by US law for other geopolitical issues. I've since taken my money out of the bank and started putting it into other areas that won't be disclosed. But I see the writing on the wall myself, and I saw that 9 months ago. So I decided to make a move. Now's the time to move if you're trying to move. Anyone else?
Yeah, when I saw that article, it's like my eyes popped open, bro. It's like the think tanks in America, normally they talk about these things behind doors so early, and it's like everybody's panicking. If you watch the congressional hearings, everybody is up there testifying. I mean, NSA, CIA, every alphabet that you can think of, even foreign agents are testifying before the Congress about what's happening in the world to the U.S. and to the U.S. How do you call it? Power, to U.S. power in general, about the military. The military is talking about the military. The CIA is talking about the Chinese are coming because the technology is coming. NSA is talking about the same thing. And you got people talking about Chinese military, the Russian military, and what Russia is doing in Africa. And this dollar thing, normally the cycle for something like this takes about 50 years. And right now we are coming up on the 50-year mark, but people don't talk about that. They don't talk about the two together because I guess they don't want to scare people. But we are on that 50-year mark for this cycle. If you go back 1913 to 1970, 68, 70.
Mhm.
The same thing with the, the, the British, happened to the British, 1970. The same thing happened to the British pound. The British pound got kicked out, and the U.S. dollar came in. So this is the cycle that it goes in for history. You know, it can go a few years plus 50, or it can come up short of 50. But the U.S. dollar, if you look back at history, no other currency has fallen so fast, so
Mhm.
quickly like the U.S. dollar, and it's partially because of the actions that they no other nation used to use their currency as a like a weapon. The U.S. is modern, the first modern nation to use their currency as a weapon.
Anyone else agree with DE Raptor?
Yeah. You have like, I don't know if I can talk about that. But it's in actuality, like the United States, at least the National Guard, they're preparing for this. They're
Mhm.
already preparing for the fallout if something like this were to happen. And word around that campfire is less than 25 years.
Yeah, I agree with them too. What's going on, gentlemen? Yeah, at the end of the day, you can't. I was talking to a military guy, and he keeps bringing up the United States has military power, and I'm like, there are other forms of taking out somebody, right? Like MOT. MOT, how tall you are, man? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
you.
we
Go
can
ahead.
hear you. Yes, go
I'm
ahead.
saying, how tall are you, MOT?
I'm 5'10".
About 5'10", I'm about 5'9". So MOT got us some nice size on him. So if him and I got in a fight, I know I can't go up against MOT just straight up. You know what I'm saying? I have to attack him another way, maybe the knees or a joint or something. And that's what the economy is doing. What the Chinese doing to America. They're just attacking different weak points of ours. They're not going to fight us head on. They're going to do no war. But like DE said, they use economics and influence in different areas and in different countries that will incentivize people to be on the time, take them back. So,
Yeah, it's asymmetric warfare.
yeah, yeah.
It's asymmetric warfare. It's not gonna be missiles and stuff like that. It will crumble within itself because of the rapunctious racism, nature of racism that has basically made it fragile, and because of all this class stratification that it has embedded into it, it can't sustain itself.
It sure
In
can.
long term, it just cannot sustain itself. It's impossible because it's not homogenous in itself. So,
You see, these are all you guys have all hit all the right points right on head.
mhm.
You see, people have to understand China. You have to look at, China. They may call themselves communist or whatever. We see kind of what's really going on with them. They're not really running a communist game per se. They're running a more of a Chineseist game, if you will. And if you understand their history, I talk about Sun Tzu, Liat de Guerre, the art of war. They talk about the art of the indirect attack and how you defeat an enemy without fighting and so forth. These are methods and strategies that they have used very successfully um, in the 20th century, going into the 21st. That has really gained them a very strong foothold. And they're not looking to directly. You hit right there. They're not looking to directly attack the United States. Mike and I have looked at that film on a few occasions, a documentary by Pilger, the coming war with China, and you see that you saw some of the Chinese dignitaries in it saying, we are not looking to fight America. No, that's not our point. We're trying to be partners with them and so forth. But the only thing they're doing is strengthening the areas that we are weak in. They're strengthening those areas up, and they're waiting for us to make critical economic and political blunders, of which we're going to make. And they're just sitting there, just poised to take advantage. They're much smarter than we are on the international scene right now. They're using their heads where we're trying to use strict military power and you can't rely on that. Rome showed you that. Some of the great empires that have fallen, even the Ottoman Empire, the Turks, so all that fell back behind sheer military power. That's not the game. These guys are smart, and they're looking at this thing from a more long-term, three-dimensional perspective. That's where I'm going to tie this once again back to the Black community, like I always do. We have to think like that as well, because there are going to be many opportunities for us to take advantage of as these individuals falter. You have to be thinking like that. That's something that we push here on this channel. I know a lot of people, have things to say against it. Fair enough. I think we're a little more forward thinking. We can see this a little clearer, and that's how we have to move forward. Kind of how the Chinese are making. That's why it's a smart move to get involved in the continent. People can tell you, well, you got to be there in order to do business. You can't sit in the United States here and then think you're going to make these moves. You're right. You're absolutely correct. We got to be there. I see there's some Black people. No, we lost it. We can't do it. I was on another guy's channel just a little bit ago, just in the comment section for a minute. Some other guys saying, no, it's not possible for us, to move to the continent now. It's over. We're dumb. It's crazy to be Pan-Africanist. It's crazy to think this way. You're stupid. You're crazy. You have this myopic, small-minded thinking that doesn't advance the bottom line. But we have to get out of that kind of thinking. The Chinese are definitely thinking differently. We are digging our own hole. Somebody here in the comment section said the United States is digging their own hole. It's exactly what they're doing. And but yet there is advantage in chaos. There's opportunity. So you have to look at where our opportunities are. We have to really start to think. We have great opportunity right now. Many of us don't see it because many of us are stupid. Many of us are short-sighted. Many of us are fairly uneducated and are just reptilian and just all fucked up. But those who are thinking clearly can clearly see this. And anyway, go ahead.
Logo is something that I don't understand, though. You see what I'm saying? I'm not American. I wasn't born in this country. I don't know the history like you guys know.
You're not ADOS then, huh?
And so and when I'm saying know the history, like you have your great grandfather was here in America. My great grandmother came to America in the 1920s. So 1930, sorry. But what I don't understand is the founding fathers knew history. I mean, Englishmen knew Roman history, they knew Greek history, they know all the history going all the way back. But the one thing that they did, and I can't figure out how they did it so stupidly, is that they built into the US Constitution the destruction of America with slavery. When they put that in the US Constitution, it put a weight around the US, the feet of the US as a nation. And the same thing.
I'm not going to say that they built slavery, and because they did say all men were created equal and so forth. They actually,
but all men weren't. They said that, but they didn't consider Black men to be men.
They gave you an out, because even Jefferson said, "Listen, man, we got to deal with this Black issue because we got the wolf by the ear, and I don't know how we're going to handle this." These guys were looking at this back then. They saw that this thing was going to have to change at a certain level. They understood it, but they were the guys that were in power, so they didn't want to give up that power then. But they understood that this thing was going to change at some point in time. They had an understanding of this, and they knew it was going to be tumultuous as well. Yeah. But they understood it. They saw this. Jefferson, man, we got the wolf.
The other thing is that today you got NSA, you got CIA, you got all these organizations that look at every angle, and still they don't even look at the history angle in order to keep from making mistakes that allow China. See, like they allow China to come up with Belt and Road instead of them doing it themselves. They came up with this thing called the New American Century, and it had nothing to do with economic building. It had with economic destruction, so that instead of building the economies around the world and they guiding it, they going in and destroying economies so that they can stay on top. And that's the most stupid things I've ever seen.
Because white supremacy does not have any scalability.
It doesn't have
It doesn't.
scalability, and in fact, it's with some of what you're seeing right now, and some of the reactions that you're seeing that are kind of myotatic, if you will. They are responding because of the loss and perceived loss of white supremacy that's coming down. That's the problem. The rise of China and how they're moving in Africa is terrifying.
I mean, worldwide. It's in the going.
Yeah, but it's all their fault. See,
of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah, but here's the greatest threat to our country. It's Southern conservatism. It's always been the greatest threat to our country.
Well,
It's always been the greatest threat against capital investment in its people. There's only one force that's been dead set against doing anything outside of religious law and rule. These people are going to destroy everything, and it is the premier source of racism in this country.
Okay, I'm gonna break this down very quickly. Okay. When Reconstruction ended, when they shut down Reconstruction, and the white wealthy landowners in the South got their asses whacked, said, "Oh shit, man, we ain't go, we can't do this again." And the Northerners sat back and said, "Listen here, you guys don't ever rise up against us again. We're gonna shut these Negroes down, and we're gonna just keep the game going. Y'all don't have slavery. You just pay these guys a little bit of money, and we're gonna get this multiply effect going, and we all gonna get paid, and that's the end of it." At the end of the day, it was the Northern powers, the coming, how would I say, industrial powers that turned their back on us. Okay, so they gave them savages in the South what they wanted, but those guys who were supposed to be on our behalf, who we fought for, didn't back us up. That's who your fucking real enemy is. That liberal gray boy. That's your problem. That's your bogey.
Yep. Mike, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, they got it, man. I mean, I can see where both sides are coming from. Growing up in the South, so I know what MOT is talking about. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's also the enabler, right? So you've got, like what you don't remember when Harvey Dent got out the car, he had his face burned. He's in the car with the mob boss, and he says the Joker is a rabid dog, and he says, "Yeah, I want the one who let him off the leash." And that's what the North is. They let these jokers off the leash, man. They're just a rabid dog, just want to destroy everything. Every Republican red state is suffering in low economics, high welfare. We'll put our black asses up on the screen that we siphon up all the resources out of them states. You know what I mean? So it's just funny how it's just funny how in my lifetime, you know how my grandfather passed away at 95. He's like, "Man, I done seen everything. We was riding horse and buggies, and I've seen a damn automobile." It's crazy how we're watching this whole, being in this time era, and we'll watch this whole thing fall apart. You know what I mean? See this whole world change into something brand new. So
if you really think about it, and before I move on to the next article, the conservative South never really innovated.
They never recovered.
And if you look at most, if you look at most of the poverty, it's in the red states.
Yep.
Well, they never recovered from this. You got to understand, most of these states never fully recovered from the Civil War until recently. Many of them are still. What do you think? Arkansas and you look at that backwards, like Alabama, and some of the deep woods. I mean, these people are still functioning like slaves, and you still have some of the poorest white crackers walking around, as they call them, the crackers of that community. And this is not a slur against them to say this is how they're castigated.
I thought you just meant saltine, with legs or something.
so I mean, they're still poor. They never fully recovered.
But they never innovated, though, right?
They were an agrarian culture. They were an agrarian society. They weren't looking to innovate. The innovations came from the North, and that's who came down and took their ass out the box. They never innovated. They never planned on doing that. That was never their plan. The North came down and said, "Listen, we're playing a certain type of game. You guys with us now? We're gonna move on. Oh, y'all gonna move on? Y'all gonna separate? Well, we're gonna come down here. We're gonna bring some more troops. We're gonna come down here, tear your asses out the frame over the next few years, and then we're gonna take you over. And then we're gonna make you pay a price for that. Okay, then we're going to put some of you people back into power. You're going to take some of these raw materials that you're going to get out of your fields. You're going to send them up to us. We're going to then manufacture and do what we have to do from out of there and keep it moving. That's it. That's the game. Where we got screwed was, of course, they did not back up. They when they said 40 acres and a mule and all that, they cut us off. They were like, okay, we don't need these no more. Forget about it. We'll just use them as slaves once again. All right. So they went back. They
got 40 channels. You got 40 channels in the GOAT.
40 channels and 40 channels and a coach.
Oh shit!
Hey, the goal. You know what's funny is that.
Funny as fuck. But anyway, the South was never about the innovations. It came from the North. South still hasn't innovated. They never fully recovered from the Civil War. Nobody has even talked about that. That's why they're far behind. They remain far behind, and you're just starting to see recently, over the last 40 years, really 30, 40 years, where corporate headquarters started to really go down into the South and take advantage of such of these wide open areas that are just, that was still, relatively, somewhat still decimated. They never fully recovered. You still have a sharecropping almost type of kind of community down there.
Yeah, BGS talks about that on his channel all the time. That his mom was a sharecropper.
You still have it. I mean, 60 Minutes did a series some years ago in the 50s called The Harvest of Shame. You might want to take a look at that here on YouTube, which showed you how still that slave setup still exists in the South well into the 50s. Slavery, many people do not believe, had ended in this country until 1940, after the Second World War, after 45. Really, that's when people really feel slavery ended. So in a de facto way. So the South they still haven't recovered. They are still recovering from the Civil War. That shit ain't ended. Anyway,
didn't Mississippi just abolish slavery? about 5 years ago?
Come on, dog. In so many ways.
I think they just abolished slavery on the legislation. I think about 5 years ago.
They didn't. They didn't.
They didn't?
No, it's still in the Constitution. Still in the state constitution.
And one of the funniest things I ever seen is that the South, from the South, they used to manufacture clothing and all that because the cotton fields, people, a lot of the Jewish people put their, making clothes and shoes and all that in the South. And those were one of the first people that moved to Asia, moved out of the country, relocated out of the country from the South. Those businesses were among the first to move out and leave the South with no employment.
Sure.
South, like I said, you got wealthy landowners, and then you still have PWTs down there that still think, well, I'm still better than black people, but yet they're living at the same poverty levels, living, in some of the same, under some of the same tough conditions. And you can go to the Appalachian Mountains, and you can go into Kentucky and some of the backwoods back there, and it's you're going back into the 19th century. I mean, it's still like that. But I want to say this real quick, Mike. 40 channels in a goat, dude.
40 maggots in a goat.
Oh my God! Anyway.
Let me get to this next article, man. It's from CNN.com. The U.S. economy is slowing. The U.S. economy grew at an annualized rate of 1.9% in the third quarter, the Commerce Department announced Wednesday. This is preliminary reading of U.S. gross domestic product, the broadest measure of the American economy. The Commerce Department will update its estimate twice more. Although the economy's growth is slowing, it remains relatively strong. However, the third quarter marks the first time since the final quarter of 2018 in which the U.S. economy has grown at a rate slower than 2%. The economy was helped by growing consumer and government spending, but the pace of growth decelerated. Americans spent less on cars, continuing a trend that has been ongoing for a year. But Americans also spent less on clothing and footwear. The Trump administration hit some Chinese imports on clothes and shoes with tariffs during the summer. Nevertheless, the report beat analyst expectations. Economists polled by Refinitiv expected growth to be as low as 1.6% ahead of the release. Both the GDP report and the ADP private payrolls report exceeded investors' expectations ahead of the Federal Reserve's monetary policy decision at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Wednesday. But neither data point will be able to move the needle for the Fed, wrote Todd Schulenberger, senior research analyst at Wellington and Co. Schulenberger agrees with the majority of investors who expects the Fed to cut rates by another quarter percentage point today. Analysts and investors expect the economy to continue to slow through the end of the year and start of 2020. The current U.S. expansion is the longest in history, and we will see. And while we see, while we see it continuing through 2020, the risk of at least 1/4 of negative growth are rising, wrote James Knightley, chief international economist at ING. America's manufacturing sector has been dragged down by weakening global economy and lower demand, as well as a strong US dollar, Knightley added. Ultimately, there is growing evidence that the slowdown is spreading to the consumer and service sectors, given the recent ISM non-manufacturing surveys and retail sales numbers, he said. Even so, the US economy continues to outperform its peers like Germany and Japan. Put into perspective, the American growth slowdown doesn't look so bad. And with another rate cut expected from the Fed to stimulate growth, investors should feel at ease about their US investments. Fed can cut all they want to. They're basically just giving a lap job to the economy. And it's, once the princess gets up off your lap, man, that little sensation goes away.
Wow,
Yep.
man.
That sensation go away, then you figure out my money is gone, I'm drunk. How am I going to get home?
Oh yeah.
That's the way it is. Because if you look at all the other nations, they look at Germany and France and all, they are far below the US. I mean, some of the European countries are into negative growth as far as their currency goes. I mean, the banks are in negative, charging negative interest rates. Italy and some of them even talking about, we should be going back to the gold standard.
And that's why you see China, Russia, and many of these, South Korea, picking up on gold.
Yep.
Venezuela trying to move gold.
Now, when you mention South Korea, those Asian countries, their growth, except for Japan, and Japan is, people don't understand how terrible a shape Japan is in. I mean, anyway, but the Asian countries, except for Japan, are all, their growth is, outsized compared to as percentage compared to the US.
Yeah, but I'm expecting Japan to get swallowed up by China in the next 5-10 years.
They'll put up a fight for that. That's why the US is giving them all that armory.
That's what I'm saying. Because they're eventually going to go either it's going to be a military fight or an economic fight, and Japan's going to make a decision on its own. Because like Dee said, they're suffering bad, man. I mean,
Japan is scared. Japan know what they did in World War II, and the Chinese don't forget.
And they never apologized either. They have never apologized. You see South Korea and Japan having a spat over reparations.
Yeah.
Gonna be interesting times.
All right, let me get to this next article from Business Insider. Bad from every angle. America's trucking recession is now in slamming. What the fuck just happened? Fucking went behind the paywall. Damn.
I'll just go back to the basic graphic. I could talk about it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Hit that no thanks button. I think that's what it is.
Nah, this is it put it behind the paywall. It says Prime. All right, let me just see if I can refresh this. Slamming for one of the $800 billion largest companies. CJ Robinson, is that the company?
No, C.H. Robinson. That's the biggest, and I'm glad they're going down in flames. By the way, C.H. Robinson is one of the biggest what do you call them? Logistics company in the United States where everybody ship from.
Okay.
Now, here is why logistics companies, the people who trade on Wall Street, that has nothing to do with the trucking industry on the ground.
Mhm.
Nothing. Now, C.H. Robinson is losing because it's easier for people to incorporate and get their own trucks and be on the road. Like me, being as big as I am, like 20 something trucks, it's nothing for me to make 10, $11 million a year. Nothing. Now, if I go out and get C.H. Robinson's customers, which everybody started doing, because C.H. Robinson doesn't pay anybody for their loads. And C.H. Robinson makes the companies, if they don't make a certain targeted margin of profit, they make the actual product sit at the companies for weeks, sometimes months before it gets shipped out. So what these companies started doing is taking C.H. Robinson's and other big, Landstar is another big one, their market share away by shipping all their stuff with local trucking companies, paying them all the money that they would be paying C.H. Robinson. See, C.H. Robinson and all these logistic companies, they got too greedy because every large trucking organization has a logistics company, and most likely they're not doing any of the trucking work. They're just passing the trucking freight off to smaller companies. So rather than those people wait to get their stuff shipped through those first parties, they're just going straight to the source and going straight to smaller people. Like, you have apps out there that are popping up. One of them is the Uber app, the Convoy app. There's so many applications that are popping up to where companies are putting their stuff on the open market and going straight to the actual trucking companies themselves, rather than paying an exorbitant amount of money of shipping through these first-party companies. They're no longer the gatekeepers for getting their stuff moved like they were before. Now people are becoming more organized and kind of cutting into that profit. And most of these big trucker companies, they don't need all those $100,000 trucks that they have on hand because they're using all these smaller companies to ship all their stuff. So companies are getting smart. It's just going out there and getting their own smaller trucking companies that are local in order to do the work for them. This is a great win for actual small company owners versus large companies. Now, the larger companies are publicly traded. This is why this article is there. Their stock is about to take a huge hit. Not only theirs, but C.H. Robinson's, Swift, Prime, Warner, Snyder, all those big guys are starting to have to compete with
JB
smaller
Hunt.
companies. JB Hunt as well. This is why they're coming out, raising the amount that they pay their drivers by like twice as much they used to pay 8 to 10 years ago, because they see the writing on the wall. But it's it's far easier to get a truck, and it's far easier to form your own. Man, so I got some background noise.
Yeah, if you're not talking, just please mute up.
Yeah. So what it is right now is the best time to become a single owner operator. There's so many apps you can use to find freight on your own. Yes, the first year is going to be hard for you, about 3,000 down, about 1,500 a month, but you can still make 7 or 8,000. I do it now. Most of my customers are not static customers outside of government things, and I can still make $8,000 to $10,000 a week out here. I can still do that per truck. So people who normally used to work for $1,000 a week are now getting their own trucks and making 10 times as much, while taking all of the market share from the stakeholders like the C.H. Robinsons and the Landstars and all that kind of stuff. So this is a great win for actual small companies. And it's never been a better time for individual people to just manage your money and just go out, get yourself a truck, put it in some immaculate condition, and get on the road and make that damn money, man. This is the best time to do it. Dude, this is stuff my grandfather or my father never even dreamed of it would be this easy to do. I mean, everything is pretty much turnkey now.
Now, do the rail line companies, the freight line companies like Conrail and some of these other Conway and the rest of those other companies, or rather other freight companies, do they suffer from this as well because they're not moving as much freight?
Now they have diversified business. Like Conway is owned by XPO Logistics right now, which is another company that has seafaring things that come from China. So they're a pretty diversified company.
Mhm.
Now CH Robinson, they're not a diversified company. The only thing they do is get large contracts from hella big multinational corporations and sits on them until people will be able to move companies' freight in the United States for nothing. That's been their game this entire time. And what happened is all the other smaller, well, not smaller, but larger trucker companies started having their own logistics outfits doing the same thing and snatching all the contracts from CH Robinson. Now you have the lowest point people in the game who has the same price point as the highest people in the game.
Mhm.
So now all their market share is just fleeting, and the small owners are winning. It's a win for everybody, man. It's a win for the American uh, small business consumer, because American small business and trucking, unless you lose a big ass contract and have no way to get another contract, dude, you killing it out here.
Mhm. Mhm. That's gonna be very interesting because as trucks become cheaper as well, I'm
Yep.
starting to see Chinese trucks on the road now. This is something I never seen before. I saw one. I thought it was a Mack truck at first, or a Sterling, and I was like, that's not American. That's something else, man. Then I looked at it and it said something like Han Hai or something like that. I was like, that's Chinese.
Yeah, and those trucks get like 13 or 14 miles of diesel to the gallon too.
Is that good?
Wow.
Is that good or bad for you?
Hell, dude, that's double what I get.
Wow.
Damn.
So that's a big savings in overhead costs, because I definitely know the trucking industry.
Oh, it is. It
I
is.
got a young man who's getting his license at the end of this month. He the overhead is high. There's that's the only thing about the trucking industry that I do see, is that there is high overhead, and if you can cut on the gas, that's a big expense. So MOT. So you're basically per mile. You're basically doing what, $7? Excuse me, 7 gallons per mile.
No, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I'll be quite upfront with you. I spend about $60,000 to $70,000 a year in diesel per truck that I have on the road, and I have 17.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine that. I can definitely see that. Yep, I can see it. And what's the average cost per gallon are you paying as you average it out over the year with all your trucks?
With all my discounts, somewhere between 270 and 284, depending on what state.
Mm-hmm.
MOT, quick question. What are those companies going to do, like Swift and them? How are they going to offload their equipment, like their trucks? Are they going to keep their trucks on hand? Or are they going to try to sell them off, or just going through bankruptcy and restructure?
You have to understand that they have this gimmick where they can pretty much, it's an accounting trick. This is why they keep having new trucks. Those new trucks, the cost of them, they get the same write-off for 4 or 5 years in a row. So they get the truck basically for free, and they get $4,000 or $5,000 in credit before they even run the truck on the road. It's an enormous scam, and this is why most newer trucks are not made to last, because after big companies get through quote unquote using the truck, they really don't need to drive it all that much because of the tax incentives that they get from it.
Okay. I was wondering how they were sticking around for so long.
Correct. And also, they're not doing most of the work. And like the majority of their work is done through kind of final mile service, like JB Hunt. They take the stuff, they break it down at one centralized location, and then they take everything to all the local companies. JB Hunt does this sort of stuff too. That's the majority of their business. Like the trucks you see on the road, that's really not that big of a part of their business anymore like it used to be.
Oh, okay.
All right, let me get to this next article from NPR.org. The 7-year car loan. Watch your wallet. A couple of years ago, Laura Hart had been through a divorce, Her car was 11 years old and she wanted a new vehicle. Almost. I earned it, really, is how Hart says she felt at the time. She'd been through a tough experience while maintaining a full job and raising two kids and things like that. So when I got to the point where I felt comfortable to take on a car loan again, I was fairly proud and ready to do that. Hart is a grade school principal in Clovis, California, and having kids, she wanted better safety features. She decided on a new Jeep Cherokee. She spent almost exactly what Americans are spending on new cars on average these days, $37,782, according to the car buying site Edmunds. Americans are buying bigger, pricier cars with more options. And one thing driving this trend is dealers are offering car loans with 7-year terms. A 7-year car loan means lower monthly payments than a 3 or 5-year loan. That sounded good to Hart, and she's not alone. A third of all new car loans now have longer terms than 6 years, according to the
7 years.
7 years for a car?
credit
For a
report
car?
credit reporting
What's your
company
interest?
Experian. That's more than 3 times as big a share of the loan market as a decade ago. So this is a graph of the car loans from 2009 to 2019. So we can look at from left to right, 2009 to 2019, see that 7-year car loans have increased steadily by 2014, 2015.
Wow.
And 5-year car loans had dipped by 2015, 2016. So
This is why I tell brothers all the time, be happy with the car you drive, because these jokers out here living off credit.
Yep.
Well, it's not even that, but look how much money you're losing on
That's
something
what I'm
like that.
saying. You're losing so
And
much
and,
money
and, and look how much you're paying in interest. If you were to take a look at that interest payment that you're paying at the end of that loan, price of car, you're damn near paying twice the amount for that car.
You just bought 2 cars, really?
So you look at what you're paying, what, close to 70 grand?
yeah,
Out?
let me finish reading this. But while these loans are popular, they are probably not the best personal finance move. The long loan terms are a really dangerous trend, says Philip Reed, Auto's editor for the personal finance site Nerd Wallet. He has written books about car buying and worked undercover at a dealership for several months to learn more about the car buying process when he worked at Edmunds. When most people go to buy a car, what they look at is the monthly payment, which is in itself a big mistake, Reed says. He says car dealers know that if they can make the payment look affordable, people will think it is a good deal. But it doesn't really work that way, Reed says. For one thing, with 7-year or sometimes 8-year loans, you're going to pay an enormous amount of money in interest, he says. Longer term loans really have higher interest rates and you're paying longer, he says. So Hart's Cherokee will likely cost her upwards to $2,000 more in interest than a 5-year car loan would have. And if you want to sell your existing car, maybe you have another child and need a minivan. With a 7-year car loan, you are much more likely to be stuck still owing a lot more than the car is worth, he says. It puts you in the very sort of vulnerable financial situation, he says. For new purchases with a trade-in, about a third of people are now rolling over an average of $5,000 of debt from their old car loan into a new car loan, according to the
Yep.
Edmunds site. In other words, they are still paying for a car they no longer own. Some economists say many Americans are stretching themselves a lot more than they have to. Cars, like most other things, get more expensive over time, but inflation is only part of the story. If you compare a car from a decade ago to a similar car today, prices on similar vehicles haven't gone up nearly as much as prices on cars people are deciding to buy. In other words, people have substantially upgraded the vehicles they are buying, says economist Donald Grimes at the University of Michigan who studies the auto industry. He says Americans are deciding to buy bigger, fancier cars with more options. They are now much more likely to buy an SUV, pickup truck, or crossover SUV, and much less likely to buy a small sedan, Grimes says. Grimes says rolling over old car loan debt into new car loans suggests that many people can't afford the vehicles they are buying. And he says the prices they are paying are rising faster than wages. Adjusted for for inflation, real dollar spending on new cars and trucks have gone up by $5,200 over the past 10 years, while the real annual wage has gone up by $3,646. So Grimes says 7-year car loans appear to be encouraging many Americans to overspend. These long-term loans are also helping dealers pack in more pricey extras. John Van Alst, a lawyer with the National Consumer Law Center, says that when you're buying a car, you've probably spent already maybe hours at the dealership choosing your car, maybe negotiating with the salesman on the price of the car itself. Then you're led back. You have to mute yourself, bro. John Van Alst, a lawyer with the National Consumer Law Center, says that when you're buying a car, you've probably spent already maybe hours at the dealership choosing your car, maybe negotiating with the salesman on the price of the car itself. Then you are led to this back office. They'll often refer to it as the box. That's when car dealers tell you the loan options and try to sell you add-on products, extended warranties, gap insurance, tire protection plans, and paint protection plans. Dealers make a lot of money on those. Van Alst says these are often dramatically overpriced and most car buyers don't know what a reasonable price is. Is this add-on, being marked up 300%? You don't really know any of that, Van Alst says. And with a 7-year loan, he says there's more wiggle room to throw in these add-on products without bumping up the monthly payment that much. The National Automobile Dealers Association had no comment. Well, shit. When Hart brought her Jeep, she agreed to buy an extended warranty and other extras, adding $2,700 onto her loan. Hart likes her car, and in her case, she didn't dramatically overstretch, but she has a bit of buyer's remorse since she'll be making payments for so long. And now she says that if she hadn't gotten the 7-year loan, she certainly wouldn't have agreed to those pricey add-ons. As for the car itself, she wonders, if the loan had to be 5 years, what car would I truly have driven off the lot that day? Odds are something cheaper. So I saw one recently. They were offering 160 months car loan.
What in the world
Yes.
is that?
This is the other day I saw this at a dealership.
They're just
Okay,
telling
so
you to
10 years.
walk in and pull your pants down, man. That's it's
Yeah, Mike.
ill, that shit.
Mike, but what they're doing here is they're pretty much adding all the extra add-ins onto the car that they normally would never be able to sell during a 5-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just paying way more for a car until you roll that over into another car. You don't see how much of a bad idea it is until the car breaks down and you can't use it anymore, or
Mhm.
B, you need to roll that over into another loan.
Mhm.
So pretty much like if you understand like Packard Financial that sells like I think like Peterbilt's and Kenworth's, GMC Financial, Ford Financial, how they sell their used cars and all that kind of stuff. This is why they came up into that secondary market of being able to finance their own vehicles. Because not only can they manufacture the car, they can sell it and make all the interest on the same damn vehicle that they sell people for a boatload of years. And then your credit doesn't need to be that straight because they know they got a customer for life. They could just keep having you roll this in and roll this in. and keep making the payments. It's a total scam.
Oh, and MOT, not to forget, they also have a fee in there for giving you the loan. So
Oh yeah, sure.
if you get financed through, like say, Honda or something like that, right? They're gonna charge you an additional fee just for using them as a finance company.
Man, you
Yeah,
guys should.
yeah.
It's like
Loan
an
origination.
Yeah, no origination, but yeah, it's just they making heaps of money.
Hey, I saw an article the other day where it said that I think it was like 5 years ago, the average dealer was making $800 per car from just the selling the car, and he was making $500 from interest and add on, little, service fees and all that he put on the car when he sold it. Today, it switched around. They're making $500. They're making more from the interest rate than they're making off selling the car.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, man, cars are too expensive for what they really offer. They're very much
Yeah.
inflated. You have to ask yourself how a Mustang goes from $26,000 to $100,000 with the same material.
And this is why also car companies vehemently oppose the expansion of any type of public transportation, because that cuts into the overall profit margin.
Yeah. And why
I mean,
they probably
yeah, I mean, it's not hard to see, but at the end of the day, this is where government legislation is supposed to stop this type of economic usury. Because that's what it is. It's economic usury to provide a basic service, which is a person getting to and from. It shouldn't cost you 7 years and $199 a month for 7 years to drive a used car. That's crazy talk.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this last week that a person that I know has been hiding their car for a year because they haven't made a payment on it. Can't afford to. And so the repo man had no idea where the car was.
Are you serious, man?
Yeah, had never made a payment on it since the day they bought it, since they drove it off the lot. 90 days, okay, it goes into delinquency, but then after 6 months, that thing is they have to go to the courts, the court system to follow a case of grand larceny, that the car's been stolen, basically. It's out there in the streets, but they have no idea where it is, and no GPS can find it. So that thing was, they had put tree branches all over it, and car covers and blankets and pissy bed sheets, and they put everything they could to try to hide that vehicle, man. I don't get it, man. I really don't get it.
But but now you can see how people are 3 months, 6 months behind their car payments now with all this,
7-year car loans, man. That is,
yeah, man,
that is incredible.
That's
car
the
is
American society.
For $36,000, that car ultimately costs $70,000. Crazy.
Got a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
I think we're forgetting that the average person has effectively not had a pay raise since 1980. The top 10%, they're the only ones who've seen a pay increase. So the car manufacturers, basically businesses, have kept up with inflation, but the average person's wage has not. So
well, they've kept it up through credit. They replaced it. They replaced the lack of wages through credit.
Exactly. So that's why you're seeing loans being stretched out, and that's why the average person, now you're seeing the average car is $37,000, which, back in the '80s, a BMW was like $50,000, if you think about it. So that's why you're seeing these prices. Well, the prices technically aren't really raising. It's just the value of the dollar, and people's incomes are not going up. That's really what's going on.
Well, there's one other thing that the article didn't mention that that's happening and nobody's talking about it yet, is that a lot of the automobiles that are being made today, the mechanics at the dealers don't know how to fix them. And it's costing if you got an engine problem, you go into the dealership is gonna replace your engine. They're not gonna fix the engine A lot of the problems that you have with your engine, you have to take the engine completely out in order to fix it.
Hmm.
And that's something that a lot of people who buy cars fail to realize. When they 3 years down the road, your warranty run out, and you got to fix a valve, this valve on your engine intake or something. You got to pull the whole engine out to get to it, and it's going to
Well, yeah,
cost you $4,000.
well, yeah. Well, one, they're adding turbos to damn near every car. Two, now they're starting to add. Now they're starting to be a hybrid electric cars, so less people even train for that. And three, I mean, someone who would be a master mechanic, technically, depending on where you live, would on average make over 100 grand. So there's a problem as well
Well,
at the dealer.
it also points to the fact that your independent mechanics don't have access um to the diagrams and topologies for these vehicles. They don't have access to the information for these vehicles, so they have no choice but to bring it to a dealership and get ripped off.
That that is an app. That's a fact. I mean, there is a lag time. I don't know the time. I do have people in the auto industry, but I mean, unless you have a high end car like a German car, you can go to an indie spot and they're pretty much spot on with the dealerships. But everybody else, for the most part, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Hey, Cyber 7 in the chat says, heck, the V12 750 is one bad machine. Hey, Cyber 7, I got a
Good
buddy
luck
who's
with that.
a mechanic. And the other day, a guy brought in one of these things with a cracked headlight.
Hmm.
The headlight cost $850 from the dealer, and the dealer didn't know how to change it.
Yep.
He brought
Well,
it to the dealer, sent it to the mechanic, my friend, to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we're moving into a more of a shared economics sort of society. That's where Lyft and Uber and Uber Eats and all this stuff is coming from, where we're all going to share the same sort of platforms for our livelihoods. I know Cadillac has a car sharing program that they're launching and rolling out. Mercedes and BMW also have one coming out.
They're one of the rental car companies just do one, like Enterprise.
It's going to be like zip cars, basically,
Yeah.
like zip cars. But Audi has Silverline. I'm not sure how far away they are from launching that. Silverline was already established a couple of years ago, but Audi's going to be doing the same thing with the Audi A3s and Audi A4s and stuff like that. Those will be shared as well. So we're moving into a more of a shared economics sort of society now, man.
yeah, microtransactions, what they're trying to capitalize off of.
Yep.
And typically they can get probably triple lease payment money off of just having different people go through their car each month. It's a win for them.
Mhm.
Definitely a win for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're gonna see a whole bunch of people. I mean, they're already stealing these bikes in the hood now. These shared bikes off these racks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're already stealing them. You see little badass kids riding around popping wheelies on them and not giving them back, which is a shame.
They got them all over here in Austin, man. These little so those shared scooters, they be on them all day, every day, just riding up and down the street sharing them. $5 just to get up the block. All right, but it's what the young kids are into. You know what I mean? So.
Well, society's moving in that direction. Europe has already seen the writing on the wall. They've already kind of moved in that area. But we got Dr. Phoenix on the panel as well. What's going on, bro?
Yeah, good evening to everyone. I don't understand, what is this business? Why are folks buying compact SUVs? I never understood the purpose of a compact SUV. I really don't.
Well, I mean, those speed bumps in the mall, those are pretty off road, man. I mean, it's pretty ATV then. Whoa, you go right over that speed bump. Whoa, each and every one of them. So.
I mean, you're paying a premium for a compact with slightly more clearance. I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, 7-year auto loans. I mean, I first was reading up on this maybe about a year and maybe about a couple years ago. I think what was his name? Dave Ramsey did a video talking about this, and it's just insane. People are spending 100 grand on an auto these days. I mean, and we know that the compact market, especially the compact SUV market, is a very big market for women. Men tend to,
Just about to say that.
yeah, men tend to get the big, medium-sized, large SUVs. Because again, I would never buy a big SUV. I would get something medium-sized. I mean, I really like the new Aviator, but that's neither here nor there. But women tend to invest in these compacts, and even if you go into the luxury market, typically when you see even women driving luxury cars, they're typically not they're not the 750s or the S classes or anything, or the A8s or anything like that. They're typically either going to be the A4s, the 3 Series, or something like that. They're maybe even the mid-sized cars, the E class or the was it the 550 or whatever that I think BMW has. So
Yeah, they call it cute utes. So they're basically crossover utility vehicles. How much utility you can get out of it, I really don't see much. People drive around these Honda HRVs. Honda HRV, it doesn't really go off road. The all-wheel drive really sucks in snow. It's the illusion of being high up and being superior to everybody. It's kind of a bit of a narcissistic sort of approach.
Actually, I think that's exactly what's going on. I think there's a bit of narcissism. I think that's. I think
it might be.
Yeah, and I think the auto industry is very much capitalized on that, because again, typically every brother I know of, they either drive a car that's they've had for a very long time and they'll drive that into the ground, or if they do buy a car, it's something that they will just buy straight out. They don't even they're not walking into a showroom unless for the brothers that I do know that really got it like that, they're walking the showroom and get a car on lease and drive it and then turn it back in or whatever. But I mean, you got folks, I mean, especially in the Black community, I mean, the aftermarket the aftermarket industry for auto sales is huge in the Black community. You got folks running around here with 10-year-old Range Rovers. Everybody knows Range Rovers are worthless. Those damn things fall apart. You look at them. I mean, but I don't get this idea where you're getting 7-year loans for a damn compact SUV. Insane.
Yeah, I mean, that's Black people's thirst for luxury, man, and being in the upper class, or the illusion of the upper class, has them going around buying Range Rovers from 2003 at the auction, putting down all this money on it, and then they find out that those parts, man, it's gonna cost you $4 grand for that
that air suspension.
And then they like, I think I'll wait, and that's they're riding around all like they're the Range Rover's a wounded warrior or something, man.
Well, it sells because it's impractical, and that's what moves, and that's what moves most sales. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I mean, I saw this over 10 years ago. I was talking to a family member who was in the auto industry. I'm like, man, like even BMW doesn't handle like it used to out the box. Now you got to get the higher end models. And he told me flat out, he said, well, they're selling more, and the average person, this is what they want. They want a soft feeling car now. I said, well, it's trash to me. He said, well, you're not the average type of driver. You would get the higher end stuff, which if you can afford it, they're going to get you what you want. But the average person, it's going to be softer, and it's going to cost them a little bit more, but it's going to be cheaper to make. And that's just that. That's where we're at right now.
I mean, you got folks out here paying, you're coming out of college, whatever, you're buying a 3 Series. Even an entry-level 3 Series model is running you at least 40 G's. You get the top end like 340i is over 60 grand.
Well, they've gone down market now, so now you have the 2 Series. So you have
what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 Series, yo.
Yeah, 2 Series is like a three-cylinder BMW, basically.
Yeah.
And Mercedes came out with the A class as well, so you can get it like a.
I see a lot of females driving the A class. I don't think I've ever seen ever seen a brother driving an A class. Every time I've seen a black person driving an A class, it has always been a black female.
Well, because
Well,
they can sucker women, into these sort of deals. Oh, if you just pay 10, if you just pay $344 a month for the next 12 years, you'll be all right. You fucking sign your life away.
I'm like 344. Yes.
what I normally say is,
I think the brother Nagone cutting out, man.
yeah, cutting out.
He might be mobile.
Also, I said I'm mobile.
Nagone, you're breaking up a lot. You might have to log off. And log back out.
All right. I'm out.
Go ahead.
What I say normally on an almost daily basis, say it's just a large class of people who fail at basic math. I mean, it's really that simple.
No, it's not the math, bro. It's not the math. It's the thirst. It's the thirst.
There's the mindset. There's the mindset. There's the mindset.
That's what I'm saying. It's the math on their own income. They can't see. Wait a second. I am spending over 40% just on my rent, on my mortgage, and I'm spending over 30% just on my car. Okay, so I'm already at 70% of my income, and then I'm gonna get mad that I don't have any savings.
But
I gotta eat.
But
I'm already over 70% of my net income. I mean, actually, that's on your gross income. So if you really want to look at the net, you're at 80, 85, 90, 95%. And then you're trying to figure out why you don't have any money because you can't do basic math.
Gross income is the perfect term for a savage, anyways.
But I was told this week on a video that men who decide to be minimalists, we just broke niggas, man. That's what I heard this week.
Oh, that's fine.
I was just sure we was too broke to even afford anything. So we out here having stuff on credit.
Here's the problem. If you go on Instagram now, and I know this is certainly true, when I was in undergrad and I graduated, I know folks right now came out of undergrad 100 grand in debt. Females came out of undergrad 80 grand, 90 grand in debt, man. And you still now got a brand new 3 series or 5 series or whatever. And I'm sitting here looking at them like, ain't no way in hell you can afford that. And
you get in onlyfans.com / your favorite BW, man.
Man, I don't do none of that. Look, it is what it is. I don't do none of that. That's for the thirsty ass dudes.
Patreons, super chats, online thirst. They got it covered, man.
I mean, there's so many ways they can,
supplement their income.
yes. And
all you need to do is go to a credit conference and get a shit ton of credit. You be looking good, man. So,
but here's the thing. And I see this all the time when I go on like Instagram. I see young black women, many of them in healthcare, because typically the folks that pop up on my Instagram are typically folks who are in healthcare or something like that. Yeah, you make a very good living, but I know you sitting on 6 figures in debt. I know you are.
Yeah,
Dr.
It done took you like 6 years to get a damn BSN. So I know you're sitting on some debt.
Dr. Phoenix, we just hired a new nurse to work with the patient I'm with.
Yeah.
This lady, 40 years old. Mind you, she white. She 40 years old. And word through the grapevine is that she just married her husband, who's 70-something years old, and still has student loan debt at her age. But she been a nurse for over 20 years.
Oh yeah.
I said,
that's not surprising.
That's
brother.
normal. That's normal.
Yeah, but what kind though? Yeah, but what kind of nurse though?
The head nurse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Look, I know. I remember when I graduated. When I started out in the ICU. There were folks on there, that had, because I was one of the few on the floor that had a BSN, and one of the nurses, she went to a very well known private university, Your boy Dwayne Wade went there, and but she owed over 90 grand, and she had been a nurse for way longer than I had ever been. But this was a new grad. This was me. I was a new grad coming in. But anyhow, I say that to say, like, I mean, this whole idea where it's taking them 20 years. Most of these folks will never pay off that damn student loan debt. They will never pay it off.
It's not meant to be paid off. I mean,
I know.
we're seeing these articles come up, the last few weeks. Oh, this person paid off $100,000 in student loan debt in 3 years. Like, yeah, that sounds real good, but what did they eat over the 3 years? Ramen noodles. Yeah, ramen noodles and
Dave Ramsey diet.
Hot ramen, hot sauce with bologna.
yeah,
the Dave Ramsey diet is beans and rice. Beans.
Oh yeah. Hot water with ketchup packets and pepper, and they call that tomato soup, man. So that's the way we're out there rocking now, man. I don't know if that's a good idea, man, because how did paying off these student loans actually boost the economy? What did it really do? Okay.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, you got you got a number of these folks, these lenders out here, because especially for the ones, the really precarious ones are the ones who went to grad school, because in grad school you don't get subsidized student loans, meaning those are loans that are not paid, that where the taxes on them are not paid, are not subsidized to the federal government. So you either get the grad plus or whatever, the parent plus, grad plus, whatever. So those are unsubsidized, which means you have to pay all the taxes on that, and that's accrued and interest and all the rest of that. So for folks who came out of undergrad, you already walked out of undergrad with like 80, 90 grand in debt. Then you go do a grad program that's going to tack on another 100. I know folks, man, right now sending grad school, man, send on damn near 300 grand just for a master's. I mean, doctor, physician, lawyer level debt.
Wow. Damn.
I'm talking about sending no 200 plus damn near 300 grand in student loan that will never, ever, ever, never pay it off. Never.
It's not meant to be paid off. It's meant.
I know. I mean, you're
indentured
indentured to these loans. But I said it because now you have a whole auto industry. They're capitalizing on it because they do their little magic, their little number magic, where they won't count your student loan debt as part of your actual debt or whatever. So they'll let you walk in there and get a brand new 3 Series or whatever on a lease, and you walk out of there. But now you decide you want to get the car, and you keep it, and then you switch it out. So now you're on a perpetual goddamn payment plan.
Well, a lot of Black people are trying to keep up with the celebrities, man. The reality TV shows. Your insert your favorite.
I'm broke.
Love and hip hop and stuff like. They really keep trying to keep up with that, man, and you can't.
Hey, they not
keeping up with the reptile.
Those reality stars, most of them, they're broke.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
No, for them, the reason they want to be on them because it launches their brand. I mean, it's a brand launch for them. It is nothing more than that. These folks, I mean, there was a story that came out a few years ago that talked about the discrepancy in pay from like the Real Housewives of Atlanta actresses versus the ones who were like in the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the white women, the women that were actually married to real men with real money. and there was such a massive discrepancy in the pay. It was just insane. But they don't, I mean, the Black reality stars do not make money. They don't. They're just all about getting your name. You can get some online clout, get your Instagram followers up, whatever. That's what it's about. It is never. Hey, you're not making.
Because it's not special for them to act a goddamn fool, though.
I mean, yes, it is. I mean, that certainly is a commodity in itself. I mean, I've even tried watching the absolute disgrace of the. I tried watching one episode of that Married to Medicine once, and it was an absolute goddamn disgrace. I'm sitting here looking at Black women, goddamn physicians, dermatologists, and OB-GYN sitting here running around like some goddamn clowns.
Well, Dr. Phoenix, how dare you have some upstanding morals and be economically attractive and not go save these hoes? How dare you?
You know what? I got the bag.
You saved them for them 7-year car loan, sir.
He ain't got the he got the scrubs.
Get the scrub.
You know, it's absolutely mind-boggling because I mean, just going to this article, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you got the loan debt, you got the stuff, but I mean, the title of the talk is Millennial Women Out Earning their peers, their partners. How the hell y'all earning your partner when most of your money goes to all this discretionary stuff?
Mhm.
How the hell
I
does
know. This is why they don't have good finances, man. And I mean, how do you buy a house with a high debt to income ratio like that? I just don't. How do you
They
buy a house?
they have
How?
they have special programs now, MOT, and this has been going on since Obama came into office, where they have
Yeah.
these sort of lottery-based programs for women, man, to get into
Yep.
these houses, man. And you see it
Well,
in
they have.
Boston a lot. They get these luxury condos, man, and
Yeah.
based on their income, and because they make a certain amount of money per household, especially if they're single mothers, that extra human that they have on their lease actually allows them to enter into these sort of programs that allows them to get to these luxury condos that puts them in this upper class stratosphere. It's really strange stuff, man. It's really oppressive too to black men because black men are never the recipients of it at all.
Well, I mean, a lot of this was certainly written, was certainly was stuff that changes that Obama made during his presidency. He added this stuff into the HUD, first time buyers program and all that other stuff. I mean, you have those programs that are specifically designed for women to help them become first time home buyers and all of that. But even to the other end of that, for example, physicians, there are special loans for physicians who want to buy homes. They have a
Yeah.
whole separate thing for physicians who want to get home loans. I mean, I can go into that some other time. But however, the thing is that you have these social programs that subsidize just truly fiscal irresponsibility, true fiscal.
Let me jump to this next article. This one's for businessinsider.com. Millennial women are twice as likely as their mothers to make more money than their partners. It's becoming more common for millennial women to make more than their partners. Compared to their mother's generation, new data shows they are twice as likely to earn more. Insider and Morning Consult surveyed 2,096 Americans, 1,068 of whom identified as women. Overall, about 25% of people who identified as women said that they made more than their spouse or partner, while
Whoa, whoa,
75%.
Mike. What do you mean by identified as women? I mean, are they what? What? Are they alphabets or women? Like,
Is what when they do the survey, it's pretty blind. So if someone just checks the box as female or woman, then that's what they're saying as
okay,
identified.
all right, okay.
Yeah. I
Wow.
identified as women said that they made more than their spouse or partner, while 75% of who's identified as men said the same. The data on pay looks very different for millennial women, defined as age 23 to 38 for this study, than it does for baby boomers age 55 to 73. Only 18% of baby boomer women said they make more money than their partner or spouse, while 35% of millennial women reported making more money than their partner or spouse.
Well, I mean, we had an explosion in women's-based programs versus things for specifically for men. Women are supposed to be ahead of men right now.
Right.
That's
They
a
are
fact.
supposed to be there.
Let me finish reading this. Only 18% of baby boomer women said they make more money than their partner or spouse, while 35% of millennial women reported making more money than their partner or spouse. By that measure, millennial women are twice as likely as their mothers to earn more than their partners. Survey respondents didn't identify whether they were in the same or different sex relationships, but it's worth looking at how things might change financially between partners in different sex relationships because of the gender pay gap. Will millennial women who currently out earn male partners continue to make more? It's unlikely. In America today, women make about 80.7% of what men do on average, according to data from the U.S. Census Bureau. That gap is even wider for women of color. In every industry, and even in religion of the U.S. or region of the U.S., women are paid less than their male co-workers, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. While more than a third of millennial women are currently out earning their partners, it's predicted that the pay gap will widen for that generation as millennials age and advance in their careers, which means it's likely that some of our women survey respondents will someday earn less than their partners. And there's clear reason for that. Quentin Fortrell writes for Market Watch that bigger pay changes often come later in the person's career. As men climb the ladder and get bigger jobs, men are paid exponentially more. Fortrell reports that millennial women executives earn 4.9% less than men who hold similar roles. And that figure increases to 6.2% for baby boomer women employees. Parenthood also disproportionately affects women, with women still responsible for most family caregiving. The National Partnership for Women and Families calculates that women, when accounting for unpaid time off and time taken out of the workforce to care for families, women will make 49% for a man's dollar over a 15-year period. A study by Cornell University's Francine Blah and Lawrence Kahn concludes breaks in maternity leave may also leave women less likely to be considered for higher level positions. Women also see fewer opportunities to make more. Research from the Harvard Business Review confirms that women get fewer promotions than their male coworkers over the course of their careers. Similarly, a 2019 report from McKinsey and Company shows that women are promoted less frequently. The study found that for every 100 men who are promoted to manager, just 72 women are promoted to the same role. There's no way to predict the future, but considering the pay gap statistics, high earning millennial women in heterosexual relationships might not always make more than their partners. So maybe if women married women, then they would out earn their partners.
Maybe.
What
Man,
is
man,
this?
wait.
Come
This
on, man.
well, when they put these numbers together, they're not comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges. They're just putting everyone together.
Mhm.
So okay, so if you want to say a high executive, normally you won't get there until mid to late 30s or even 40s. So you got at least 15 years experience. So they're comparing guys who have 15 or 20 plus years experience to freaking girls with like 3 to 5 years experience. That's really what the numbers are. So of course those guys are supposed to make more money than them.
But
Okay, can I break this all the way down? Can I break this all the way down, Mike?
Super Triz, Cyberdyne had his hand up, so let's go to Cyberdyne first, and then we'll go to Super Triz.
What's going on, gentlemen? So, that math seems a little bit sketchy. I think they're comparing apples to apples. However, I think that they split the math up a little bit. So if you think about it, and MOT had kind of said something that makes a little bit of sense there. Women in the work, especially millennials. So I would say, you take the number of working women compared to the number of working men in that particular category of millennials. And if you were just to go straight by the math, because I kind of know from a finance perspective, yes, they probably do lump a lot of those women together. But I mean, just on an overall basis, if you have more of people in one group and less people in the other group, and you start, calculating averages on that, of course, the group with the largest number of participants are going to win.
Yep.
So I think that mathematically, from the article perspective, when you put it like that, yeah, it makes perfect sense. But if you start to slice it up and then really start to subdivide that out, then yeah, we get to see a very different picture. But I'm gonna go ahead and pass it off to Triz. Let him go ahead and break that on down.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Respect to everybody in the chat. So essentially, what you have, well, number one,
it's very easy for women to have a high level of productivity because they don't have that burden of performance that men have to be appealing to the opposite sex. So men have a undue pressure to actually perform early. And so by doing that, they compromise their long-term productivity by having immediate revenue generation. So they'll go for a job as opposed to having that delay by going through an educational process, training process, which a lot of women do. A lot of women are students. So and you know, it's okay for a woman to be a career student, especially in other cultures. You know, a black man in black culture seeking to date black women, and you're trying to be a career student, you're not going to get any black women like that until after your product, because you know they're waiting at the finish line for you to have actually proven yourself, and then all of a sudden you're appealing. But throughout that entire process of you going to school, making those sacrifices and stuff, you're not appealing. So, but as a woman could live in a situation where she has 4 or 5 roommates, right?
Yep.
She could have a bunk bed in her apartment. I will still pursue her. So that's the reason why women can actually be productive. They can go to school and then when they're finished school, they got their education. But the entire process of going and getting their education, there was really no sacrifice involved as opposed to men, right?
Yeah.
And so then I see women who are in their 30s, 20s and 30s, and they'll say, I don't want to have kids ever. Then you have women in their 40s talk about they want to have kids. This is the reason why, because they've delayed childbirth. They think, oh, I don't want to have kids, but then all of a sudden that biological clock starts ticking, and that biological imperative kicks in when they're 40. Now they want to have kids, but see, because they didn't have kids when they're younger, they were able to go to school and climb up that corporate ladder. So of course they're making more money than their mothers did, because their mothers didn't delay childbirth. They didn't delay their biological imperative. A lot of what their mothers did was had their children early. Then after they divorced, raped their husband, then they went back to school when they got their divorce. So it's difference. So my point is this. My point is this. A lot of the biggest problem is that knowing that these women are actually making money and they've actually switched the roles and times have significantly changed. Why are men still spending money on these women? Like they get their ish together, and in order to be appealing to women, they feel like they have to spend money on women. And then the women, with the money that they generate from having increased levels of productivity, they spend the money on themselves. So men spending money on women, and then the women spending money on themselves.
Yep.
Like so, it's like a win-win-win for women.
This is why
It's designed that way.
No negative.
It's a non-select game.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to what Triz was saying, you know, at least in my personal experience, it has been, I'll put it this way. For example, physicians. If you were to look at the average physicians, most physicians don't peak in earning potential until they're in their mid 40s to early to mid 50s.
50s,
Why?
yeah.
Because they have so much debt and they spend, you know, a huge portion of their time in their career paying off that debt. And this is true of every physician I know, you know, and I use that as an example because again, this is applicable to men across the board. Men earning power typically does not peak until their mid 40s, going through.
Yep.
And so, I mean, yeah, of course, the early, you know, people think it's right. Yeah, they can make that initial upfront investment in themselves, and so yeah, they're being in their 20s and 30s, and someone got the bag. I don't believe that because pretty much every black female I know has significant amount of debt, especially if they went to grad school. You know, so yeah, they might have that earning potential, but that's also hides a lot of the other stuff that comes with that. You know, you might be making 120 grand a year, but you know, you're hiding about 80, 90 grand in college loans. You know,
I didn't even mention the credit card debts that they have, plus the store credit card debts that they have, right?
Yeah.
But you know, you've got individuals walking around talking about, I travel to different conferences, I do all this. Man, you living off credit, and you're trying to sell me a lifestyle that's not everybody can do that. That's number one. or number two, acting like you're coming from money, right? And then here's the last point, which is this is nothing new that didn't happen back in 2008 before the collapse, right? You saw so many women talking about, I got real estate this, real estate that, I got my own company. After that economic collapse happened, you don't hear from them no more, right? If you look at the statistics for people who were able to get um, blacks who got approved for bankruptcy, we didn't get approved for bankruptcy as much. And then for those who did get approved for bankruptcy, had to damn near give up almost all their wealth that they had occurred, as opposed to their white counterpart who got a lot of their stuff just wiped off. You get what I'm saying? So if you want to play this, I'm using credit lifestyle type game, you keep doing that. That's on you. But I don't want to hear you crying when the judge says, yeah, you got to pay X amount of dollars to get this bankruptcy approved.
I mean,
Well,
let me jump to this next article because
Yeah.
we only have a whole lot of time for the articles that we have. All right, this one's from rawstory.com. Here's why millennials are ready to go socialist. Younger Americans are more likely to support a socialist political candidate, and their views on capitalism are significantly more negative than older Americans, according to a poll conducted by YouGov for the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. The poll found that, let me mute MOT because I think the poll found that just 50% of millennials or people born between 1981 and 1996 have a positive opinion of capitalism, while 70% said they would be somewhat or extremely likely to vote for a socialist candidate. The number of millennials who said they would be extremely likely to back a socialist candidate doubled from 10% last year to 20% in 2019. Generation Z, or those born between 1997 and 2012, also have severe qualms with capitalism. Just 49% of Generation Z respondents expressed a positive view of capitalism, while 64% said they would vote for a socialist candidate. The poll only sampled Americans over the age of 16, the age of consent, the manosphere. Older generations of Americans have a significantly different outlook. Nearly 60% of Gen X respondents, or those born between 1965 and 1980, said they have a positive view of capitalism, while 44% said they would support a socialist candidate. More than 60% of boomers, or those born between 1946 and 1964, expressed a positive opinion of capitalism, and just 36% said they would vote for a socialist. Nearly 80% of the silent generation, meaning older adults born between 1925 and 1945, said they had a positive view of capitalism, and just 33% said they would support a socialist candidate. The poll data shows that younger generations do not view socialism through the same negative lens as older Americans, many of whom lived through the Cold War era. The data is backed up by the support candidates like Bernie Sanders have received. Though Hillary Clinton dominated Sanders among older voters in 2016, primarily, Sanders won more primary votes for Americans under 30 than Clinton and Donald Trump combined. The trends could have significant impact on the 2020 elections. Millennials and Generation Z are expected to make up 37% of the electorate next year, according to a study by Pew Research. Generation Z is expected to make up more than 10% of the electorate, surpassing the silent generation for the first time. I'm not going to read too much more into this, but hard times, man, are really driving people's political views, man. It doesn't matter what your background seems to be. It seems to me that if you see a failing economy all around you, you're looking for the most populist candidate. Let's go to Dr. Phoenix. He has his hand up.
Oh, actually, that was my bad. I forgot to take it down. I'm curious to know how of those people that they polled, how many were, what was the gender breakdown? How many were males versus what percentage were males versus female? I mean, that would be all I have to add to that. I mean, I'm not really surprised in that regard. Again, this goes to what I was saying a few days ago about how Chicago got a lesbian for mayor. I mean, not surprised. I mean, Chicago, again, I'm from Chicago. Chicago has a huge socialist movement. I mean, been very interconnected within a lot of the political body, even the Black empowerment scene, for decades in Chicago. So a lot of your cats like Lupe Fiasco used to roll in those groups. Cornel West, I personally have met both of them and such. So, those cats rolling, the folks like that come out of that movement.
Let's go to D. Raptor. He has his hand up.
One of the questions that I would love them to ask is if these people know the difference between ideology and economics. Because the problem is that a lot of these young people are seeing how corrupt the system is. And they're not voting economically for these people. They're voting for more broad, what they think is equality, or a better system of distribution of wealth and social economics, really. Because a lot of people, the young people, like the kids that might, the school that my kids go to, a lot more of them have a better conversation with their Hispanic or Caucasian counterpart when they're young than when they get older. As they get older and they move into the law firm, or the golf club, then they pick up these what people call capitalist ideas, that we have to control the world against, because it's us against them.
We had somebody like that on this panel a few weeks ago who was talking about the Chinese are over here stealing and unfair academic practices. I always find that interesting that they're quick to point out the Chinese, but not quick to point out how white Americans robbed and pillaged other people in this country to get to where they were, or where they are right now.
Right. A lot of these kids are looking for social justice. Well, and the question there might be framing it as an economic question, rather than a social question.
Yeah. Let me go to MOT. He has his hand up.
What I don't like is, since most of our media is ran through the lens of yellow journalism, I mean, there's no real drill down to even know what these people mean, other than what their understanding of what things are, which may be wrong. I'm like, okay, like for me, I think education should be something that should be paid for by the government, period. Because it's an investment in people. I know everybody would probably agree with that. But like anything outside of that, I mean, what do they want paid for? And for what reason? I mean, like, that's what I would like to know. I mean, rather than just a basic, what do you think socialism is? Because like people think, okay, I believe in Medicaid and Medicare for older people, therefore I believe in socialism. Like, we need to kind of drill down, what do people mean and what do people think about socialism? Yeah. But I mean, but they're so used to just trying to get this, ooh, socialism, bad idea. But when corporate welfare is given out, the same people have nothing to say. But they always have something to say when it's for people.
That was going to be
right about that, MOT, because when you give everybody the right to education, good health, then you're making the system equal, and you can't if everybody step through the door as equal, then you really got to choose the person that's going to fit into your organization, or the person who can do the best job. And that can't happen in America.
But also, I think that's a part of it, the education being equal, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure everybody on this panel work ethic is a hell of a lot more than a lot of people in their graduating class.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? So it's not just about getting an education. There's, Super Tree has already said he do 60 hours a week, but I'm pretty sure the women that he worked with doing 40, 36 at the most. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
you can't ask Super Tree, you can't ask a guy like Super Tree who's busting 60 hours a week or more to
Mhm.
contribute more
Mhm.
when he's like, well, man, I'm already doing mine and some. You know what I'm saying? So uh, I get the education piece part. My issue is with the work is always going to be on the work ethic side, especially
Well,
millennials. How
no,
much are you going to be contributing to that pot?
yeah, I
Go
would
ahead,
just
Dr. Phoenix.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I would just add to what Mr. Coleman was saying was, I mean, he's right. I mean, even in healthcare, if you look at it, healthcare, most of your folks who tend to work the long hours, the 12-hour overnight shifts tend to be men. If you look at something, for example, like nursing, in nursing, men are only about 10% of the total nurses, but yet on average they tend to make more than women. And a huge part of that is because, yeah, men tend to work longer hours. They tend to work the 50, 60 hours a week. Certainly true if you're a physician. You're working to 70, maybe 80 hours a week if you're a surgeon, and you're doing those late nights. You're doing those 12-hour shifts, 7 to 7, whatever. That's how it is, and but I also say to this socialist thing, I know quite a few socialists because when I was in my early 20s, I used to roll with a lot of these folks. So I knew a lot of these folks who started at Occupy Wall Street and all that other crap. And I tell you right now, a lot of these folks, especially the ones that were voting for Bernie Sanders, are very well off. Very well off. It is a farce. Very well off. All the socialists I know went to schools like Brown. They went to Ivy Leagues. They went to
Yep.
schools like Brown, University of Wisconsin, Madison. They went to top tier schools. In fact, one of the socialists I know, her father, she her family has a big mansion in the mountains in North Carolina. Her father used to be the CEO of Carnival Cruise Line. So, I
Well,
mean,
if you throw
this idea of socialist, people don't really understand what it really is and who's really a socialist here. The folks that are talking socialists, and this was certainly true of Bernie Sanders supporters, those were very highly educated folks. A lot of them were tech guys.
Mhm. Well, can you be a socialist if you throw a brick through the window of a nail salon?
I'll leave that up to the panel. They can on that.
All right, we got Salchi with his hand up, and then we got Super Triz.
Yeah, what hasn't been mentioned is that what we've been seeing, especially since 2008, the crash, technically it started in 06, 05, is that you're seeing the 50-plus-year-old crowd, um, they're still in the market, they're still in the workforce. So people aren't being cycled in and out as previous generations. So just recent reports, it's over 30 some odd percent of the new jobs, higher paying jobs, have gone to the 55 plus crowd. Now for millennials, it was like, I think it was between 12, 15% of those jobs went to them. And let's also remember, you still got Generation X that's still in there, and Generation Z, they've already entered the market.
Mhm.
Second point is, you're talking a country that's what, 300 and roughly 320 million people. Only 100 and low 100 and something odd million actually file taxes. So you can say they effectively actually pay taxes. Basic math. As
Mhm.
far as I'm concerned, anyone who's not in the 10% of top 10% of income earners, they're either poor or working poor. So recent reports from IRS means if you're making less than $145,135 AGI, you're effectively poor or working poor, which means you are barely paying taxes, excluding sales taxes, or not paying taxes at all. Out of 320 million people, that's basic math, and that's even the people in the top 10%. It's not even 10 million of them.
Mhm.
So I don't get caught up in people's in emotions. I mean, I'm in finance, so I just look at the black and white. So people can talk all they want to talk. I mean, I know the numbers. Like when I say I know the numbers, I freaking know the numbers cold.
Mhm.
Top 100%. Only there was only 1,433 of them. That's it.
Mhm.
How much they made last year? Bottom tier, $63,430,119. So
It's like that 134, that 134K is before after taxes.
no, it's 145 now.
Oh,
It was 100. It was 134. 2017. See, this is why I say what I say. The income wages have only been going up since 1980 for the top 10%. Everybody else, it's either been flat or negative. So
Bro, man,
most of the
what does
I'm sorry?
inflation do to that? What does inflation do to that?
What, your income?
No, I mean, I'm just hitting on the point that you're making is an excellent point, because I mean, you're in finance, you don't just know the numbers, you count the numbers. So what is can you add a little bit of spice of what inflation also does to that?
Oh, I mean, this goes to everything we were talking about earlier. This is why it appears on the surface that things are more expensive. No, your income's just not keeping pace. Period.
Yeah.
Because you're 9 to 10 top 10%. That's really all it is. Like things really don't go. I mean, it's really when people talk about money, they really don't know what they're talking about. They're really talking about currencies, and the value of the currency is going down. That's what's really going on. Matter of fact. Then you got to look at supply and demand. I mean, that's going to change a little bit in taxes, a little bit, but the major factor in the prices of things, why they're going up and down, at first is the value of your currency.
Mhm.
And like I said, since 1980, if you're not a top 10%, you've been flat or negative. So compound that. So this is why I stick to basic. I'm not even going into complex math. I'm sticking with basic math. So you cannot keep up with people in the top 10%. Compound it. It's mathematically impossible, and people are trying to via credit and feeling good. It's not going to happen. You can't beat the math.
Let's go to Super Triz. He has his hand up.
Yeah, just kind of piggyback off of what Salchi says. When you look at the actual GDP since 2009, you'll find that we're actually in a depressed state.
Correct.
Now there has been an increase, but we never actually recovered from 2009. So if you look at what our actual GDP would have been had there never have been that 2009 economic calamity, we would have a significantly greater GDP. So even though we've actually been going up year over year, we're not actually where we would have been. And so, but what we find is that the top 10% is where they would have been. It's just us. The rest of us are not. And so I think one of the issues is that, like you said, everything else is on track except for wages. And so with the wages, even if you get a raise, if your raise is not commensurate with the actual rate of inflation, then you're actually losing money year over year.
That is correct.
And so then like people tell you like, oh yeah, you're getting a raise, but then you got to take your raise, whatever you get, and subtract the actual rate of inflation. That's what your actual raise is. So that's part of it. So like that's my big thing is like you have to find ways beyond what your actual income is to generate income. So like whatever you get from your job, like you should be looking at some type of investment vehicle. Like for me, it's real estate. And I'm looking at income real estate as opposed to real estate that just appreciates in value. I'm looking at something that I actually collect rent. So I'm actually tapping into my equity constantly, as opposed to only getting into my equity when I sell my property, which is a big difference. And so, I think that people got to look at things, from that particular perspective. Like, how can I make my money work for me? Like, when we talk about productivity, the general was talking about earlier, I work with, mostly women in healthcare, right? I'm working 60 hours a week. Like I'm on my way to work right now. And so the women that I work with, like, not only are they only working, I got a couple women that's working part-time. Now, this one woman, she's working 24 hours a week, and she's like 37, right? No kids, not married, and she talked to her financial advisor, and her financial advisor said that she was not on track for retirement. So then she says, well, then, I got to start picking up. I got to start working full-time hours. I don't want to work full-time hours. I'm like, first of all, 36 hours is not even full-time. Like, I mean, it's full-time, but I mean, come on. Like, right?
It's not real.
She's complaining about having to pick up 12 more hours to make 36, right? She's only working 24 hours now, right? And she's like, I want to have time off to relax, blah, blah, all this other nonsense, right? And so here I am, I'm working 60 hours a week. She's complaining about having to work 36, which she's still not doing, right? She had an opportunity to pick up that extra day. What did she do? She procrastinated, act like, oh, well, I missed the opportunity. You didn't miss the opportunity. You purposely didn't pick up that actual extra shift, which she could have when the lady just, quit, and she chose not to do it. So it's like you got people in a position that they're in economically is because they're just fucking lazy. Excuse me, my language. I'm sorry about that, Mike.
That's
No,
very
They're
That's a
just
fact.
lazy, right? Like, how are you in your 20s and 30s? Actually, when I was in my early 20s, I worked 7 days a week for 2 years straight. So you can't tell me about work ethic. So you got these people that's in their 30s, right? How are you in your 30s? You talk about 40 hours a week and you complain about working 36 hours a week. Like, really and truly, if you're in your 30s, it's no reason why you shouldn't have 60 hours a week of productivity. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're on your job 60 hours a week.
Correct.
But if you take 60 hours, maybe you got, X amount of hours that you're actually working on your job, or maybe you got your own business that you're starting up. You're doing some type of self-help, some type of education to increase your productivity. But 60 hours a week, bare minimum, you should be spending on actually increasing your productivity if you're in your 30s. There's no reason why you shouldn't be doing that. And so, but you got these people that's complaining about, oh, I can't pay my student loans.
Yep.
You can't pay your student loans. You only working 40 hours a week. That's your problem. See, we're confused because we hear 40 hours a week and we hear full time. We hear that and we think of congruence. Okay, well, I'm working full time. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, if you're $80,000 in debt, you don't have the luxury of working 40 hours a week. Period.
But Super Triz, let me ask you a question, because I work in healthcare too. If you pick up a Saturday, and Dr. Phoenix is probably going to test this too. If you pick up a Saturday night, ain't they down there paying you triple at a hospital?
Absolutely. And you know what? Here's the thing, right?
I know a girl said she was making $81 an hour.
Oh
Yeah.
And all she had to do was pick up the shift, and she's like, I just can't give up my Saturdays. I said, fuck it, before shit.
Well, look at this from perspective. I'm gonna end on this, right? I got all these women that I work with, right? They only work in 36 hours a week, right? Then they'll call in sick, or they'll leave early, like every week, every single week. Every time I come in, there's somebody, right? So at night, I'm in charge at night. So I come in, and what's the first thing they ask me? Hey, you mind if I leave early? That's what they ask me every time I come in. They want to leave early. It's like, leave early? Like, it's slow right now. This is the time you want to be at work. Like, if it's slow and I'm getting paid, like that's the time. Like I just don't get it. And then they complain about how expensive things are, how much real estate is here in Seattle, how they can't afford a house here. They got to live way out in Auburn. It was like, well, you're only working 36 hours a week, and then you call in sick every other week, and then every day that you work, you want to leave, 3 hours early, 4 hours early. That stuff starts adding up because you don't have any more vacation days left.
Well, and I know in healthcare, some of the major institutions, they use hand scanners to clock in and clock out. I mean, isn't that the case?
Yeah, like one of the places I worked at, it was actually your ID badge. Your ID badge, you use it to scan it in or whatever. And because basically you use it to scan it in, you scan it in, you clock in with your ID badge, and then you clock out with it, but you also use your ID badge to access your computer and all that stuff.
Yep.
But to what Super Triz was saying, many health organizations, specific, and this is specific to I'll say to nursing, but many healthcare organizations have what you call it, oh my God, they have programs where you can do, it's like a weekend program. Basically, it can add anywhere between 20 to damn near 30 grand to your base salary, just working weekends.
Yeah, that flex schedule. Yep.
Yeah,
They don't do that no more. That's called the Baylor program. Baylor program. They don't do it
yeah,
anymore.
the place that I worked at, they still do it because I had a couple of friends that they were on it as well. But I'll tell you this much. Like in the ICU, because like for example, I was in the ICU, but in the ICU, it tend to goes in low, it kind of goes into highs and lows. So depending on the time of the year, it's pretty empty. So like for example, I worked at a smaller community hospital, but the ICU, like in the summer, the ICU wasn't even popping. For some reason, people don't get sick in the summer. Go figure that. But in the fall, in the winter, people always sick. So you can come in the fall. So you can come in the summer, you can just rack up all just hours. I mean, it'd be, nighttime. It'd be, it's really slow, very slow. So it just, to what Super Triz was saying, you see this a lot, especially in healthcare, because 36 hours a week for a nurse is only 3 days a week. Because if you're doing 312s, that's only 3 days a week. So
to make two quick points on what Super Triz said, with working hours, especially if you have like, I wouldn't even go to a financial advisor. I'd go to like a real good accountant, because you really need to know where your tax bracket is. Because if you go into the next tax bracket, depending on whatever your hours are, working overtime, you could effectively actually be making less money. Because if you hit the next tax bracket by $1, your taxes just went up by your whole income. So effectively, all those extra hours could be gone, wiped out via taxes. That's one thing. The second thing about, we really effectively did not recover from 2008. That's correct. The reason why it appears that we did, the reason why the stock market appears to be healthy is because of corporate buybacks. People don't know that. People are not talking about that publicly. It's gonna come. It's gonna hit. How hard? I have no idea. And it's gonna hit because of pensions. Because pensions are designed to be at least 7%. They're not even touching. They're barely touching 4%. So that's gonna happen. Of course, that's California, notorious. Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Arizona, Rhode Island. I can go on and on and on. So this is what's really going on right now.
Let me get to this next article. This is from Forbes.com. Here are the countries on the brink of recession going into 2020. Amid a global slowdown in economic growth that has seen central banks lower interest rates near zero or below in an effort to provide stimulus, here's a look at which of the major economies are on high recession alert. Hong Kong, the UK, Germany, Italy, China, China, and these other countries, Turkey, Argentina, Iran, Mexico, and Brazil, among others, with stressed economies. So essentially what's happening here is every other country is really dependent upon the US dollar and contingent upon how the markets do in these G7 countries. And because of that, they will come to a slowdown because they have to. They are intertwined within the globalization framework of economics. And as it stands right now, Africa is not one of the countries. Africa does not have a country on from the continent involved in the global slowdown. They're actually going to do well going forward because they have their own internal economy now with these new agreements, new continental free trade agreements that's going to allow them to have intertrade. So most of these.
Hey, Mark, who was the country that just built their first smartphone?
Rwanda, the Mara.
Yeah, once they get all that manufacturing in place in Africa, it's going to be up. I mean, they're at the bottom, so they ain't got nowhere else but to go but up while everybody else comes down.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Rwanda, that cell phone manufacturer, that's not the only thing that Rwanda is getting into now. If you look at the Rwanda economy, I mean, they just built one whole area for a free trade zone. And it like all the shipping that's going across from East Africa, West Africa, they built this huge storage facility. It's like a port, an inland port. That's what they call it. That this thing is huge, man. And if they get it running the way it's already started running, but the 3 year or 5 year plan that they have, if it comes to fruition in 5 years, I mean, it's going to rule East Africa if nobody else does the same thing. So Rwanda is doing a lot to bring their economy online, even though they don't have the kind of thing of like the Congo, for instance. You know?
Yeah, I'm just interested to see what's going to happen in the future in terms of, you know, um, as things start to slow down, we're not even able to keep pace with these jobs, or have the skill sets for these jobs. And like Dee said earlier, people are voting for with their stomachs in terms of just wanting free stuff. You know what I mean? And not even trying to figure out how to get this stuff paid for, or seeing what kind of impact it's going to do to our economy as it goes forward. You know what I mean? So you've got those who want to work, and then you got people who get the ability to, at the end of the day, was it Mayor de Blasio? I think that was begging the millionaires not to leave. You know what I mean?
Well, they can't afford capital flight. That's a big issue.
That's what I'm saying. So if you got capital flight, what are you going to? I mean, the only people who got capital flight are those who are productive. You know what I'm saying? So what are you going to do then once these people expat to different countries and just work mobile with a laptop and an internet? Still get paid.
Well, no other community has capital flight more so than the Black community does, especially with productive Black men just leaving, not even marrying out, just leaving, getting the hell out of Dodge, man. And there's no sort of campaign to acknowledge the issue itself or to promote the men who are actually productive. And so the Black community suffers when they start to look at the census and they go to each neighborhood and they look at income per capita and they see that it's well below or at the federal poverty line. Oh, just a dozen of those brothers can be in one neighborhood and change the demographics really easily. And unfortunately, those brothers get ran out of the community pretty fast. So,
but Mike, what happens is,
hold on a second. But those brothers were told that they were lame and that they should go feed these goats babies. You know what I'm saying? That they should have came back to the community and saved goats babies and stuff like that. So it's all their fault.
But rightfully so, they left. They didn't go back, and why would you? You're not being respected, so why would you go back? And some 30% of Black men in this country who have who've graduated with at least a bachelor's, they marry out.
Yeah.
Some 30%.
Yeah.
So why
50% in the UK?
But that's the reason. But that's
so what's
big argument. This is this big argument in terms of you're starting to see this. Well, men ain't got jobs and all this talking down to you. You wanted us to assimilate, and so now that we finally started to assimilate, now you're mad because you're mad at the hand you play.
Well, they're mad at. Well, if we're talking about the women, they're mad at the guys that are left. Well, technically, those are the guys for you. Yeah. Realistically, yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, just this is be real. Those are the guys really for you because those are the guys you really wanted.
Well,
the guys who really could move and were really doing stuff who you weren't checking for did the smart and wise thing. They went where they were being celebrated.
Listen,
Very simple.
I'm over here in Austin, Texas. I am telling you right now, brothers over here who are upperly mobile don't check for sisters. And the sisters, if they do check for sisters, these sisters are bad as fuck.
That's right. Top tier.
Attractive. They're very girly. They're socialites and all this shit. The reason why you hear all this balking is because these women cannot compete with these other women. Those dudes don't give a shit about how much money you got. They don't care about your credit shit. They don't care about your business. What they care about are you going to be a woman, a wife, and be home with our children. and let me get out here and make this money for us. And then we have um, a social, I guess, status of a power couple in public. That's what they want. They do not want some chick who just is going to be try to be his equal and all that goofy ass shit. And
50-50.
they don't do that here, man. Listen, here's the crazy part. Even in Austin, Texas, and this is no homo shit. The females here are not as attractive as the dudes are, in my opinion. Right? It's just there's just something about the white females here. And I'm from Georgia, so I know what and used to work in Atlanta and stuff like that. So I know what how good white girls can be, right? So to me here, they're just not as pretty, but they still get fucking play. You get what I'm saying? And sisters get mad that even these butterface chicks is pulling brothers. That's what the fuck
Well,
is that about? At the end of
well,
the day,
it's very simple. Why would a masculine man want to be with something that has similar energy or expresses themselves in a similar manner? It's very simple. The only place on this planet where you can say black women are really being chosen is Africa. That's it. And that's only because of the numbers.
I also
I
think it's
mean,
I also think
Yeah,
it's
but
just
you have to.
disposition. I was just gonna add this, and MOT can go. I was just gonna say it's just also disposition. I mean, you talk to the average black female this day, college degree or not. I mean, she just has the nastiest mouth ever. She can't talk to you without swearing or
Man, there's
talking
no
to you like
etiquette,
yeah, just talking to you like you one of the homies or something.
bruh.
It's a complete yeah, bruh. I mean, it's a complete damn turnoff. So yeah, those butterfaces can get you because they at least they talk to you like they're women. I mean, and I mean that's where it really begins at, you know. So
Yeah.
A lot of the times they come off like Yum Ma.
you know, you know when
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
you know you know one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most attractive things a woman can ever do is just have a soft, demure voice. Sound like a woman. You sound like one of the homies, or I'm in a damn locker room and you know it's oh nigga this or nigga that or whatever else you can throw in the mix. Like that I mean for me that's an immediate turn on. So yeah.
and Dr. Phoenix, can you tell us because you know a lot of women get pissed off when I'm just blatant. I mean I'm going up. I'm going up.
I really need to get to this next article because we kind of got way off track, man, for
All right.
economics. We could do something on the next open chat tonight.
All right.
All right, this next one from usatoday.com. If you're saving for retirement, remember this: it's really just 20 years of unemployment.
What?
a happy,
Oh,
a
Is it a
happy,
real
healthy.
article or from Onion?
No, this is from USA Today.
Damn.
A happy, healthy retirement is most everyone's dream. This is poorly written. We imagine lazy mornings over a cup of coffee and a good book, days relaxing on a tropical beach, exploring foreign lands, and playing with our grandkids. No stress, no worry. We would be better served to think of retirement as 20 years of unemployment. That's because when it comes to retirement savings, the majority of Americans generally come up short. According to Northwestern Mutual's Planning and Progress Study 2019, only 16% of these adults surveyed had saved $200,000 or more for retirement. 1 in 5 Americans have less than $5,000 saved for their post-work years, and 15% have no nest egg at all. So much for no stress, no worry. Add to those sobering statistics of undersaving in the fact that most Americans have unrealistic expectations about their standard of living in retirement. Gallup found that 57% of working Americans expect to retire comfortably, and only 1/3 of those surveyed expect to rely on Social Security as their major source of income. But retiring comfortably with a modest dependence on Social Security will require significantly higher retirement balance than the average working American has set aside. During during a career in during a career in investing, which which spans 3 decades through bull and bear markets, I have observed that investing in stocks. Oh, this is this is something different. But yeah, this is most of these people don't even have $5,000 saved up.
But they believe the government's going to save them though, or the goodness of everybody's heart is going to come in and save these people, or come and save you. Like, you know,
Damn
all
for a
these,
rude awakening.
you know what I'm saying? All these hours Super Trez is working, Dr. Phoenix working, they're going to give out some extra money to save us all. You know, so.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
They were originally termed as supplemental. Those were the terms for 401ks and pensions from the very beginning, and then they changed the name. So that's why people think that they can not work after. It was never designed for you to not work. It was designed to supplement. That's the problem.
well,
Again, can't do basic math.
yeah, I was just gonna add, just in line with the title of the discussion, again, keep in mind that a lot of the things, for example, that women get tend to be very much subsidized.
Yes.
You talked about this before, Mike. You have states where women can't even be homeless. But I don't know how many times I've talked about, I've dealt with a number of homeless brothers that are our age, they're in their 20s and 30s and 40s. I've met some even in their early 50s, where they should be working, but for some reason, they lost a job or whatever may have happened, they're on the, they're down and out. And there's nothing there's no safety net there. There's no floor for them. They just keep falling, most of them. For women, that's typically not the case. There is some safety net, there's some floor in place that makes sure you don't keep falling.
Yeah, if there's a bed available here in Massachusetts and Maine, which are the only 2 states that by law won't allow women and children to go homeless.
Yeah, got the same thing here in Austin, Texas. They got all the men to be outside, and the majority of the women to be on the inside. They just crowded out around the
Yeah. If there's a bed available, then it will go to a woman. It's not going to go to a man unless it's in the county jail. So,
Dang.
hey, let's go to Manny tomorrow. He got his hand up.
Oh, well, my hand was for the last question, not this.
Okay. It must have been your Mago pimp hand. Let's go to Cyberdyne.
You be throwing me off track. You got me laughing. I was about to say, I know how to help out with retirement. Just tell everybody, take you about $500, go down to your local casino, and just put it on 6 and 8.
I've talked about this, man. There's no way you're gonna retire in this country with less than $100,000. Ain't no way.
No.
And not live comfortably. No, it's not gonna happen. You'd be better off. And I'm not a certified financial planner. If you want a certified financial planner, go to CFP.net, look up one in your area. You will be better off putting that money into some other country like Jamaica or Barbados or St. Lucia, Grenada, something like that. You'd be better off getting out while the getting is good. Trying to retire here with less than $100,000, it is horrific to see senior citizens in poverty. Horrific, man.
And you know what's
and
one of
that's
the
if
number
you got a
one
house
FYI.
that you pay for.
I got a FYI real quick on that
Yes,
note for the guys in the chat and people listening. Dominican Republic, if you want to get your money in the bank, Banco Santa Cruz is favorable for expatriates. Banco Leon BHD also. Only trick is if you're gonna take some money and switch it up in the country, they just want you to stay down there for a couple of days. But on that note, Mike, yeah, Banco Santa Cruz, Dominican Republic, expatriate friendly. Switch it up.
Well,
and what's the age of consent there?
Oh man, I don't know about that.
no,
Wow.
just to add to a comment that Sao Chi and Super Triz earlier about GDP and just with the comment about seniors, understand something. You got more than a quarter of your GDP now is healthcare. seniors are the heaviest users of healthcare. It's one of the primary reasons why so many seniors go through their savings. Many of them are on fixed income.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you have healthcare that sucks up a lot of that retirement that that unfortunately is only increasing. The amount of that the U.S. spends on healthcare per year is increasing, and right now I think the last numbers I looked at was about 25 cents of every dollars is on
Yeah,
health.
that's just talking about. I think Dr. Phoenix is just talking about the. I think most of it's just the equipment. I mean, that's not even actually having another physical human being there taking care of an elderly person. You know what I mean? Like the nursing staff is getting swallowed up because of just the increase of the elderly population. Um, most of your people are trying to stay home with their families, but that family has to go out and work, so they have to put their family in a nursing home. So it's we got some tough. We got a lot of tough decisions we're making up in the future, man. Real soon.
Well, I've always been a firm believer. If you want to see that everything that's wrong in Black society, healthcare is a good place
Yeah.
to be in healthcare.
Yeah.
You'll see everything that's wrong.
Who else had their
On that
hand?
note, fellas, I'm finna go do my healthcare job. I'll be listening for the next time.
All right.
All right, guys.
Thanks for stopping through, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Sauchi, you got 30 seconds. Go to the next article.
Yeah, real quick. This is what I tell people on a regular. I mean, it's very, very, very simple way of living. 10% of your gross income, that's your rent or your mortgage. No more than that. 10% to your car expenses, transportation. 50% savings and investing. The rest for everything else. And if you look at that 50%, whatever your income is right now, times that by 20, not adding in no taxes, not adding in profits or losses, that's your retirement. So that should wake you up real fast.
500 on 6 and 8.
Or you could do that too.
All right, let me get to this next article. This one is from CNN.com. This will be the last article. The trade war is stinging Caterpillar and its outlook is dimming. Caterpillar, stung by the trade war and global economic slowdown, posted a surprise drop in third quarter profit as sales slumped in nearly every region around the world. The world's largest maker of construction and mining equipment warned on Wednesday that more pain is coming. Caterpillar, a bellwether for the global economy, dimmed its 2019 earnings outlook. The company is moving swiftly to slash production and is exploring ways to cut costs. Caterpillar blamed the gloomy results on a decline in demand from dealers that supply the company's machinery to customers. Dealers slashed their inventories by about $400 million during the quarter, a sharp swing from a year earlier when they boosted inventories by about $800 million. We believe dealers reduced inventory to uncertainty in the global economy resulting from trade tensions and other factors. CEO Jim Appleby told analysts during a conference call. The company's revenue dropped 6% to $12.8 billion, significantly missing Wall Street's expectation for a slight increase. Per share profits unexpectedly declined 8%. Caterpillar expects these trends to continue. Caterpillar now anticipates full year sales will be modestly lower and significantly drop earnings guidance. The company said it will cut production to meet weaker demand, but promised to be flexible in response to the very fluid global economic environment. Caterpillar executives said they will decide in the coming months on whether to launch a major restructuring plan aimed at slashing costs. Caterpillar said third quarter sales decreased in all three of its divisions, as well as in all regions except Latin America, where they were flat. Not surprisingly, the Asia Pacific region, the epicenter of US-China trade war, fell by the largest margin. Sales there declined 13%, driven by lower demand in China for construction equipment. China recently reported its weakest economic growth since 1992. Caterpillar sales in North America dropped by a more modest 3%. Like other manufacturers, Caterpillar has been hit by a slowdown in the mining industry. Caterpillar's resource industries division suffered a 12% decline in sales due in part to weakness in the coal industry.
Yep.
We continue to believe we are in the early stages of a multi-year recovery in mining, Puebli said. However, miners are cautious due to economic uncertainty. Energy was another weak spot for Caterpillar, which makes pumps and other equipment for oil drilling. Revenue fell 9% in the oil and gas segment, and Caterpillar said industry demand remains relatively depressed. Despite the economic trouble, Caterpillar pledged to continue to reward shareholders by returning plenty of cash through buybacks and dividends. Caterpillar repurchased $1.2 billion of stock during the third quarter and expects sizable buybacks through the end of the year.
Here we
Caterpillar
go.
stock, yeah. Caterpillar stock dropped about 1%, recovering from an initial 7% plunge in pre-market trading immediately after results were proposed. So, Caterpillar's results come a day after Hasbro revealed that the trade war is eating into its profit and warned of potential price hikes. The toy maker's stock plummeted nearly 17%, marking its worst day since December 2000. Something is happening. Somebody.
More fear porn, Mike.
Oh yeah.
You remember we were
Yeah.
discussing this? We were discussing this when we were discussing China.
Mhm.
And remember, I don't know if it's you or Nagona or me says, you know what? When Caterpillar and Boeing, when you see this happen to Caterpillar and Boeing, it's over. That's when
Yeah.
the U.S. economy is going to fall apart, and it is
Trust me.
happening. So right now,
I move a lot of Caterpillar stuff. And dude, let me tell you, when I used to go over there 4 or 5 years ago, trucks out the yin yang. Now you go over there for as long as the eyes can see, for about a half mile, you see the same tractors, the same earth movers, the same everything that hasn't moved, and you go into the dock to pick up other stuff. It's bad for Caterpillar.
And guess
I'm
what?
surprised.
Quick question to
happen,
MOT.
what's going to happen down the road is that if this economy starts to recover, other people like Chinese are going to step into the market, and Caterpillar is going to lose some of it. So this thing is going to, and they're talking about restructuring. Restructuring just talking about get rid of the workers and bring in machines. That's what restructure means. And when
restructure means destroy pensions and do all stuff against workers. You know, they really ain't touching no corporate profits or CEO salary. No. They're coming for the pensions. They're coming for the health care. They're coming for the union benefits. That's what they're coming for.
They're coming for middle management too. Middle management is always in jeopardy when they restructure.
I had a quick question for you, MOT, because you're in Colorado. You're in the Colorado. You're in the state of Colorado. And do you know any folks who were at like the Colorado School of Mines and all of that? How since because I know Caterpillar is a big I know they recruit pretty. Yeah, they're a big sponsor and recruit heavily from there because I've known a number of folks who went there and stuff like that. And so, have you seen any difference or whatever in that with those programs or folks coming up out of there?
But you have to understand that companies donate to programs like that because they get 4 and 5 times the money back. They really don't give a shit about the program. It's all about the tax incentives that they get out of donating to there. I mean, you have people like Pepsi and Coke who donate to there. And the soft drink industry ain't got nothing to do with intelligence. So
No, it was just interesting because I knew some folks who came up out of there and they kind of had a difficult time finding jobs and stuff, especially because, Colorado has a big oil and gas and coal industry and all of that stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, but the great thing about Colorado with the energy exploration is if it's gasoline, like this is why gasoline is lower than anybody else in the state. If you drill it out of the ground in the state, you have to have it in the pumps in the state. This is why your Conocos and your everybody else is far higher than your Sinclairs, because they have to. If you drill it in the state, you probably have to use it in the state. For, I mean,
makes total sense.
yeah, but a lot of people don't want to play by those rules. I mean, but it's just that they really haven't modernized their program either. I mean, you have Community College of Denver, who turns out better students than the Colorado School of Mines. So that's what that tells you, man. Like,
I know you don't. You don't
Yeah,
think
you go to that Denver airport, man. There's nothing but advertising.
Mr. James.
What's going on, sir?
man, what's going on with the background, man? What's going on with
I
that?
think that's the brother Super Trees.
Someone that spilled some white stuff on his scrubs there.
Yeah. Now he really got to go scrub that off.
No, I think you know, the article kind of points to the idea that Caterpillar is gonna have to diversify their portfolio. I think you're gonna start seeing some more Caterpillar robots running around, these big earth movers and drillers and things like that. I also see Caterpillar, John Deere, there's gonna be some acquisitions, some mergers over the next couple of years. If they're saying that this isn't gonna be a continuing trend, you're gonna see some mergers.
Yeah,
They already have those robotic trucks already in the mine.
Yeah, they do. Some of them.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you'll probably see backhoes and stuff like that being automated. You'll start to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, you will. I mean, they've already been working on that for the past like 10 or 15 years. Cause they got a big tech site at headquarters where they were already automating stuff and kind of driving it around. But you know, because of the regular normal price of that stuff was out of this world, like the automated stuff was really out of control. But they still have it. But there's no way they're gonna be able to recoup that level of investment for a basic vehicle that pretty much, you know, you can use an iPad to drive. You know, they're never gonna be able to recoup that money, even though they do have that technology.
No, you'll see John Deere. We'll probably start seeing. You know what? I think it's going to be a good time to look at what's going on with the whole entire mining industry. John Deere, Komatsu. Who else is involved in this sort of industry? Bobcat.
Yeah.
Whatever the companies are. I like to see what their quarterly earnings are, and if they're all seeing the same trends. If they all are seeing the same trends, man, the writing's on the wall.
I mean, but here's the thing: if you go to any auction, especially heavy equipment auction, all that equipment still works. It's just that there's no need to buy new stuff. There's no need. I mean, because the old stuff works so well. I mean, they're great big engines that work extremely well in extremely harsh circumstances. So for the simple fact, so for the simple fact that they were going to keep reselling up the great date versions of stuff when there's already so much stuff out there that are just sitting on these people's lots because companies are not buying this stuff. I mean, you know, I've moved, you know, I still move stuff from John Deere. I think that's Augusta, Georgia, and I take that stuff like out to the west or out to the East Coast. That stuff just sits there. Nobody is buying this stuff, but they keep moving it around. Like some of the same stuff, because I see they still have the same bill of ladings that I get stuff from Augusta. I take it to one place, then I pick it up at Augusta. I take it all the way to New York. We're talking about the same serial numbers of equipment, same bin numbers of equipment. So they're just moving stuff around and making it look like they're making sales when they're actually not making those sales at all. So I don't know what's going on with that. But hey, I get paid a lot of money to do it. So while it is dumb, it is extremely profitable.
Well, I think sometimes you have to move them off of certain dealers' lots in order to make way for new inventory. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, but if they're not selling the current inventory because people ain't got the money in the area, and then you just bring brand new stuff that costs 35% higher than the stuff that you already couldn't sell, then I'm moving that to another place and that to another place. I'm like, man, they're really not selling this stuff. I mean, they're moving it everywhere, but they're not selling it.
Hey, MOT, is some
Yeah.
of that stuff that type of like construction equipment, I'm assuming, is that stuff like would you consider that like stuff that's below market, where it's like, I don't know. I mean, say if you're non or you're uninitiated individual who just got some money sitting around, could they potentially like buy some of that stuff? Would it be like a good value? Because what I'm hearing is that if they got stuff sitting like that, man, maybe it's got to be some guys out there, hopefully in the community, got a little money. That sounds like a good snatch them up for somebody to get their own construction, or building company going with stuff like that sitting around, things selling it depending on the price.
Okay, I'm about to say something. The views of Man of Tomorrow are not to be. The views of Man of Tomorrow are not the views of the Black Brain Trust. If you need any help or assistance with how to ship and receive things across the country, please notify your nearest shipping and receiving carrier. Okay.
Mhm.
What most people do to make an exorbitant amount of money is they stick these things in shipping containers and they ship them to Saudi Arabia and they sell them for 3 times as much as they're worth in the United States, and they do the same thing in Africa.
Mhm.
Oh wow, it's a heck of a flip.
Yeah. Yep. They do the same thing with luxury cars too. Yep.
Yeah, I knew a couple of Nigerian cats that used to do that with Mercedes and stuff.
Yep. And again, in theory, these things could happen that way. I don't have any firsthand knowledge. I can only go off of anecdotal things that I've seen in the past on paper.
Man.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that the market is going to take a big splash just over this. I mean, you can't produce. It's one thing for GM and Ford to produce cars that no one wants to buy, right? You can kind of take a lot. You could write those off as a loss. You can't write, mining equipment off as a loss. That stuff has to stay there. You can't crush it. There's no place you can just crush it and then call it a day.
All you have to do is go to Ritchie Brothers auction website, and you can see it all over the country. They're talking about hundreds and thousands of these things. They can't even get rid of them. They can't even get people to come pick them up. So they have to take them back to the state because the state repossesses these things from these companies after they go under, and it's pretty easy and cheap to pick them up. But if you and they cost a fortune to move. Because most times they're overweight. You got to get from state to state. You got to get the highway patrol to escort you. That's not cheap. And every single state, you got these high ass per mileage percent per. It's a pain. And plus, no real construction can use those types of things. And the type of people who can do that type of stuff, they just use other things for it. So, like I said, people's in a world of trouble. Caterpillar has been in a world of trouble for like 10 years. It has been financial manipulation that has kept them in business this long. I don't. It is shocking how they were able to even do any of this stuff.
It won't be turned into
Because
any butterflies anytime soon.
The government props them up. People don't realize that when Obama goes to Africa, somebody from Caterpillar goes along. When Obama goes to China, somebody from Caterpillar goes along. And it's like the government pushing Caterpillar, pushing Boeing, because they are the money makers.
Well, the thing is, Caterpillar also makes a lot of military equipment as well.
Yeah, they do a lot.
Yeah, they're major defense contractors.
Mhm.
Caterpillar, Boeing, major defense contractors.
Oh yes. A lot
Well,
of people
because you know,
Caterpillar go into the government. They become congressmen and lobbyists. And all.
yeah, I mean, because you know, after we go save the people, you know, by destroying all their stuff, they just bring in a whole bunch of brand new Caterpillar stuff that they just write up like you wouldn't believe. And yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, that's a talk for another day. I can certainly tell you a lot about I'll put it this way, Halliburton, KBR. I'll just throw those two
who
out.
have not stopped doing business with Iran, China, North Korea, or anybody else, but everybody else is wondered about the brand of the dollar and how much responsibility that they've taken toward it. It is yeah.
Yep.
So
All right, man. Let me end it right now. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if you have not already done so. Share the video if possible. Hit the notification bell so you get all the updates from the
I'm sorry I didn't get in with you guys, man. I'm just busy tonight here, but damn, great conversation, man. I'm sorry, but great night, guys. Have a great night.
All right. And as an FYI, as always, we are not certified financial planner. If you want a certified financial planner, go to cfp.net and look up one in your area. We do not give out financial advice on this channel. And with that being said, we'll see you on the next open chat in the next 90 seconds.
Wait, Mike, hold on. You there?
Yes.
One more thing. Also, we do not endorse gambling. If you have a gambling problem, please call your local Gamblers Anonymous. That's about it, because I mentioned something about gambling. So we don't endorse gambling. I don't endorse gambling. So.
yeah.
Right.